Gauragraganya Ganagocha Goloruharam Gauranga Guratama Gopyata Kolpa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavadam Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachia Dile Kakola Kahe Premananda Emona Gauranga Hridoya Dariya Bola Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangira Namare Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoyamara Pranare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya, Prema-bhakti-candrika Parama Pumarta, Tasmai Jaganmangala Mangalaya. Chaitanya Chandra Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandra Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandra Namo Namaste. Madhgavirapi Gopala Srikaryat Kripaya Jari Tadaiva Sambhaya Pidva Rishayustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunathapta Brajabala Bapahimam Vanchakalpa Tarubhishcha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Binda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we can recite this prayer to Srila Narottam Das Thakur. Shri Krishna Nama Amrita Bharshi Bhaktra Chandra Prabhadvasta Tamo Bharaya Gauranga Deva Anucharaya Namo Namah Srila Narottamaya. Again and again, I offer my obeisances unto Srila Narottam Das Thakur. He is indeed a true follower of Lord Gauranga Dev. The nectarian shower of the holy name of Krishna, radiating from the moon of his mouth, destroys the darkness of ignorance. So we're going to continue with our discussion on this verse. This is our 10th session on this particular stanza from Prema-bhakti-candrika. This is the 5th song, which Narottam calls Raghunuga Bhakti Riti, a glimpse into the path of Raghunuga Bhakti, and speaking about the qualification for Raghunuga. And this is the stanza that we've been on for the last 10 sessions. Yugala Charana Sevi Nirantara E Bhavi Anurage Taki Bashudoy Shadane Bhaviba Jaha Shida Dehe Pabataha Raga Patira Eshe Upai. I will constantly desire to serve the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna with loving attachment. Whatever I contemplate during the practice of devotional service will certainly be achieved upon perfection in a spiritual body. This is a method on the path of attachment. So, as we've been commenting in previous sessions, this verse is often cited by some Vaishnavas in our Gaudiya family, our friends, as evidence to prove that there's a necessity for Siddha-pranali. And we've been speaking something about that subject matter from the perspective of the Puranas and Vedic literatures, and I'm just thinking for a moment, and from the perspective of our different acharyas. And overwhelmingly, we found actually zero statements from our acharyas, including the 6 Goswamis, who are the most prominent, to support Siddha-pranali by itself. Overwhelmingly, throughout the Puranas, we find statements like Harinama, Harinama, Harinama Eva Kevalam. That in this age of Kali, the holy name, the holy name, the holy name, Nasteva, Nasteva, Nasteva is the only way. There's no other way. There's no other way. There's no other way. And so we've been speaking something about that, and speaking something from the perspective of the Yoga Sutras, because this is our science. And then we spoke from the Yoga Sutras. What we spoke something about the definition of what is actually yoga, what is samadhi. And the Yoga Sutras describe that, excuse me, right here, that yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. That yoga means chitta vritti nirodha, that when your mind becomes completely peaceful. And in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, this statement is there. And the next verse, I'll go ahead and put these on the board. This is a little bit of a review. The next verse describes Tadadrastu Swarupe Vastanam. This is a direct reference to Swarup Siddhi, that once the mind is chitta vritti nirodha, completely fixed in yoga, our chitta here is translated as a mind, but it means our consciousness. Then tada, at that time, drastu swarupe vastanam, then we understand what is our swarup. So all of those things were clear. And then we discussed in our last few sessions about a problem, which also arises, described in the Yoga Sutras, and that is about pramada. Pramada means to be inattentive. And we spoke about this from the Yoga Sutras, 9 different types of inattention, which I'm just showing on the board. We're not going to discuss more about. And also from the Harinam Chintamani, where Bhaktivinoda gives 3 simple descriptions about it. And how these types of inattention arise from pramada and from ahamta and mamata. From ahankar. Ahankar means 2 things, ahamta and mamata, self-identification with the body and possessiveness. And that consciousness disturbs our mind so that we don't have this chitta vritti nirodha. We can't become absorbed in Krishna's name. So we spoke something about that, and how I'd like to speak something today about a solution for that, which is offered by Sridhar Swami, the original commentator on the Bhagavatam, in his Bhavarta Deepika commentary in the Bhagavatam, the 26th chapter of the 3rd canto, Bhagavad Bhimda Grahitvam, that the nature of chitta, he speaks, in this section of the Bhagavatam is speaking about chitta, or consciousness, that the nature of chitta is that it's bimba, it's reflective. Our consciousness is reflective. When we associate with different persons, when we associate with different things, that comes to us as qualities. So then in our last session, we spoke something leading up to this topic today, which is about humility, and how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that when I said that our Siddha-pranali mantra is Trinadapi Sunichena. So what does that mean? What is the connection with humility and Siddha-pranali? And I'm not going to speak much more about that today. Actually, a little bit. We touched on a little bit about Sanatana Goswami as our Sambandha Acharya. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta spoke like this. He said in one lecture, Sanatana is a Sambandha Gyan Acharya. In other words, he's the person who knows the science of Sambandha Gyan, or the science of our connection with the Lord. In the Harinam Chintamani, Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes, in the very first chapter, he describes the words of Haridas Thakur, which speak indirectly about this subject. He says it, Amita Adama. This is my identification. The Hamta Mamata. This is my identification. Amita Adama. I am fallen. That's who I am. That's my Siddha-pranali. I am Amita Adama. And then he says, I know who you are. To me, Adama Tarana. You are the deliverer of the fallen. Ubaye Sambandhe. This is our Sambandha. This is our connection. Ubaya Sambandhe Patita Pavan. O deliverer of the fallen. So when we adopt this Trinadapi Sunichena mentality, then Kirtaniya Sadahari, we can always chant. And that chanting is so important because, as is described in Hari Bhakti Vilas, we've been quoting, Mano Madhyestito Mantra, Mantra Madhyestitam Manaha, Mano Mantra Samayutam, Etadi Japa Lakshanam. This is Japa. Japa means that when the mind and the mantra become one. But the mind and the mantra can't become one because this ahamta and mamata, this identification with the material body and this understanding, this attitude, this belongs to me, this is my house, my wife, my husband, my children, my money. So how do I give that up? It's through humility in connection with Sri Guru. And Sanatana Goswami, who's a Sambandhacharya, he describes this in his Brihad Bhagavatamrita to how we cultivate dainya, humility, with our bacha, ihaya, and matya. Bacha means our speech, ihaya means in our behavior, matya means in our thought. In other words, we cultivate this, we speak, we own it. We own our problems. We own our mistakes, our shortcomings. And we confess that. That's through vacha. And by doing so, we're cultivating humility by glorifying other great personalities like Leela Purushottam Prabhu. That also helps us to cultivate dainya when we properly give respect to senior persons. Ihaya means in our behavior, if we help an old lady walk across the street, we give some respect to some senior person in a physical way. We carry some bags for them. We bow down before them. The ihaya is one of the three ways that we cultivate dainya. And the third is matya. Matya means in our thought. In other words, we should always be searching out all the good things in everybody else and all the bad things in myself. And by doing those two things, accepting and looking for good things in others and accepting and looking for bad things in myself, I'm cultivating dainya in my mind. And so all three of those are connected with the holy name. That the holy name, we're chanting with some thought, not just in a mechanical way. And that chanting is ihaya. It's a lifestyle. Chanting is not just something that we do for 2 hours a day with our bead bag, but if you study all the different 10 offenses to the holy name, you see very quickly that chanting is a lifestyle. It's something that we're constantly doing. It's constantly working on our connection with the holy name. And we serve that vacha by speech, by chanting, and by speaking about the holy name. So in our last session, we spoke something about Mahaprabhu, his comments about the Siddha-pranali mantra, or the Siddha-pranali process. The only things that he spoke directly about Siddha-pranali. He says, Sarva Siddhi Hoibe Sabar, that everybody's going to get all perfection by chanting Kahilana Ehi Mahamantra Iha Japa Giya, by chanting this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, which was given in Chaitanya Bhagavat in the previous verse. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. He says, Ite Vidi Nahi Ar. There's no other Vidi. There's no other process. There's no other rule to be followed, just as chanting. And if you do this, you'll get everything. Now, you might consider that, well, Chaitanya Bhagavat, just Vrindavan Das Thakur, he just didn't know the real deal. He just didn't understand. But if you speak like that, I'm going to feel very unhappy, because Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami and other acharyas accept Vrindavan Das Thakur as a Vyas of Gaura Leela. Now, if you're going to come and say or imply that you know more than Vrindavan Das Thakur about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, about the process that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give, please excuse me, but I think I'll stick with Vrindavan Das Thakur's opinion over your opinion. So this is his opinion. This is what he says about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then we spoke about how Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Bhajan Rahasya, he speaks about our only qualification. And reviewing some of these things. Namadikar yata bhagavate. That Namadikar is described in the Bhagavat Purana. 11, 20, 27 to 28. And this is a verse that we spoke on last session, Jeta Shodamakata Sunyavina Sarvakarmasu, that we have some faith that's been born of Adhikata. And we know, Nirvina Sarvakarmasu, that all this material desires and material activities are going to bring me problems. Veda dukatmakam kama. I know this kama is just going to be duk. Veda, I know this. But parityage panishvaraha. I can't give it up. Tato, what should we do? Tato bhajeta mam pritaha. Krishna tells Uddhava, just do my bhajan with priti, with affection. Well, what does that mean? That's not me, because I have no priti for Krishna. We may say that in an honest way. And then he says, Shradalur Dida Nishchaya, these three qualities we should have: priti, shraddha, and Dida Nishcha. We should have affection in our bhajan. We should have strong faith, and we should be firmly fixed. Jusamanastatang kaman, even while you're doing your nonsense. Not that we should do that nonsense. Srila Prabhupada gave 4 regulated principles. Dukadar comes chagar hayan. But while we're doing that, if we can't control that, then we should, dukadar comes, we should cry and cry, lament, chagar hayan, in the fire of lamentation. We should consider ourselves very, very fallen. Now, in this verse from the Bhagavatam, there's some secrets here. And in our last session, we'll come back to that. In our last session, we spoke something also about how there's a difference between weakness and deceitfulness. And what is the difference between the two, according to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta? We may be very weak, but we shouldn't be deceitful. Deceit comes when we deny that thing and we try to present that I'm a very advanced person, I'm a very great person. Rather, we should own. We should confess and own our fallen nature. So now I'd like to look a little something to continue our discussion about Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. In our last session, we spoke something from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila chapter 1, which described something about the initial meeting of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now I'd like to read you something from Madhya Lila chapter 20, which is Mahaprabhu's instructions to our Sambandha Acharya, Srila Sanatana Goswami. And what was their connection? What is our connection with Sri Guru? This is a question that comes. We want to be with Gurudev. We want to be close to Gurudev. And we try that in different ways. I'm not trying to be sarcastic. I'm being really frank. One method, which is probably the most common and popular, is I get photographs taken with me and Gurudev. And I'm standing next to him, and then I show that to everybody. See, this is me. And I have friends. Another common one is that devotees talk about their exchanges with Gurudev, the pastimes of Gurudev. And I remember back in the day when I was traveling with Gurudev and I was with him, and he said this and this. And those things are valuable. Those things are important. Those things are very close to our heart. But Sanatana Goswami, quoting Samoayan Tantra in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, he says, Gopayed Guru Matmana. Better that you hide your guru. Why? What does it mean to hide my guru? Does it mean that when I go out in public with him, I put a blanket over his head so no one can see his face? It means I don't advertise that my intimate connection with him. In the same way that a husband and wife, they have some private dealings, very personal private. You don't speak about that. Maybe in America you might, or in Holland or something, but you don't speak about that in the high class community. That's a very private thing. And even your feelings for your friends, that's my personal business. Gosh, it must have been about 1968 or 69, Srila Prabhupada was on a morning walk in San Francisco, Golden Gate Park, around Stowe Lake. And as they were going around the lake, one of the devotees felt some inspiration. He wanted to know something of Srila Prabhupada's dear, intimate feelings. And he said, Srila Prabhupada, you must be feeling separation from your Guru Maharaj. He thought, this is such a nice question. I'll ask this, and then I'll get to hear something about Guru Prabhupada's heart. And Prabhupada stopped. And he turned to that devotee, and he said, this is not for you to know. Because that's something very intimate and personal. Yes, we don't deny our guru, but we don't advertise our connection with him. As Sanatana Goswami in the first chapter of Hari Bhakti Vilas, he says that he says, Krishna, what is it, Krishna Kun? Yeah, Gopiya Guru Matmana, but not in the first Vilas. In the first Vilas, he says that Nabeda something. Anyway, that we should not, that is, a bona fide disciple should not consider themselves non-different from their guru. Advaitam cha parityagata. Advaitam cha, that I'm non-different, not beta, but Advaitam cha, not abeta, but Advaitam cha, cha paritya. Give up this attitude. This is fanaticism. This is cult behavior. When such a neophyte person gets initiated, then they want to run around and tell everybody, my Gurudev, Amar Guru, Jagat Guru. My Gurudev is the best. Why? Because he initiated me. Isn't that obvious? He must be the greatest because I'm initiated by him. Huh? It's a private matter. And we wrote some article about that in actually in response to Goni Tai's, one of his questions before, about hiding our feelings, and something I posted on Facebook. If someone's interested, you can mention to me. I can send you that article. So many pramanas about the necessity, the importance of practicing bhakti and hiding our feelings. So how do we approach Guru? Now, we've understood that this humility is needed, but that humility takes place in connection with the Lord. There's a great personality whom all of us are familiar with. We call him Prabhupada, or Srila Prabhupada. Now, what does Prabhupada mean? He's that person that all the Prabhus are at the pada, at his feet. Now, if you deny those Prabhus, it means, to say something a little unpleasant, it means you're cutting off the feet of Srila Prabhupada. Because his glory is that he has all these Prabhus at his feet. Now, if you say, I like Srila Prabhupada, but I don't like any of the Prabhus that follow him, then you're cutting off his feet. and you're not going to be able to approach or understand Srila Prabhupada. So in the same way, if we want to approach the holy name, in the Prema-bhakti-candrika, book ascribed to Srila Jagadananda Pandit, he says there that Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha Krishna Nam E Matra Chai. That all that I want are these two things, Sadhu Sangha Krishna Nam, the holy name and Sadhu Sangha, because without the devotees, I can't have the holy name. So we've understood that the holy name is so important. And we've understood that this Trinadapi Sanichena verse is our Siddha-pranali mantra. This is a process by which we behave to develop that connection. And therefore, Haridas Thakur says that Amita Adama, I'm fallen, to me Adama Tarana. This basically is a paraphrase of the Trinadapi Sanichena verse, that I'm fallen, you're the deliverer of the fallen. When we begin to develop that understanding, sambandha, this is our connection with Krishna. So we do that through Guru. And that's what I want to discuss a little something about today. We want to talk something about three subjects in connection together. And that is the connections between Nama-bhajan, Guru-seva, and Siddha-pranali. And I collected a lot of different thoughts and pramanas on this subject today. And looking at it, I don't know if I could do this in one session, especially since we've given quite a bit of time already to a review, which is necessary because all these things are connected. Fakir Mohan Prabhu once, when he was learning English, he was attending my Bhagavatam classes and other devotees in Bhubaneswar, and he couldn't understand so much, but he was listening very attentively. He's a genius. He's like in his 70s, and he started learning English for the first time, and very confusing, strange language. And he would ask questions and make comments at the end. And one of his classes, which some devotees were saying, wow, Madhavananda, that was so good. That's one of my classes. We quoted so many verses and things. And his comment was, Madhavananda is running very fast, but he's not looking back. And that was a good chastisement for me. And now so I'm trying to look back as we're going along to see how we've gotten to where we are today. If we just jumped into this subject today without looking back, there's no connection between the two. So my thanks to Fakir Mohan Prabhu for that. So what does it mean then to approach Guru? Let's look at this. Is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 20, which is the teachings of Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami. So Sanatana Goswami, he received this knowledge from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the same way that Arjuna received knowledge from Krishna. And in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Visidantam idam vakyam, it's ascribed, starts off to that in response to this vishad, or this lamentation of Arjuna, when Arjuna opened up his heart and was completely honest with Krishna, then this bishad, and we spoke about this bishad, I think, in our previous session, that two words together, bish, poison, and ada means to accept the poison of my reality. And reality, no matter how depressing, is always preferable to illusion, no matter how cheerful, to paraphrase Rabindra Swarup Prabhu, beautiful comment. Reality, no matter how depressing, is always preferable to illusion, no matter how cheerful. So, Vishidantam idam vakyam uvacham madhusudana. This is the foundation of the Bhagavad Gita. This is the foundation of Guru and disciple. When we approach Guru in a humble way. So let's look at what happened with Sanatana Goswami and Mahaprabhu. Sanatana Goswami came to Tabi Sanatana Prabhu Charanadhariya. He came, Charanadhariya, he had straw in his teeth, and he came and he grabbed the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Trina means straw. Trinadante in his teeth, Dainavinati. And with great humility, he bowed down at Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feet and he spoke. This humility needs to be directed somewhere. It's not just that, yes, I'm very humble, Prabhu. I just am humble. But humility has to have some focus. It has to repose somewhere. It's reposed, it's placed in my connection with Krishna's devotee. And therefore, Haridas Thakur begins his discussion with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by saying, Amita Adama. I am fallen. That's who I am. So then Sanatana Goswami told him, Nicha Jati, Nicha Sangi, Patita Adama. This is very similar to one of the verses in Madhya Lila chapter 1, which we spoken last time, that Nija Jati, I come from a bad family, Nicha Sangi, I'm associating with all these Muslims, I don't have any good association, Patita Adama, I'm very, very fallen person. Kubi Shaya Kupi Padi. I fell down in this well of material life. Goinainu Janama. This is the story of my life. And this is an important consideration because when we make friends with someone, when we establish a relationship with someone, you spend lots of time talking. That's why you see boys and girls in high school on a date and whatever, they're sitting by themselves and they talk for hours and hours. And I want to know all about you and what you like and what you don't like. And that's how they establish their sambandha, their connection with each other, by hearing about their family and hearing about their younger days and this thing and that thing. So it's a natural way when we establish a relationship with anyone, any type of relationship, we speak about ourselves. But the problem here is that this mentality, ahamta and mamata, that this body is me, and these other things in connection with my body, they belong to me. And so that blocks my sambandha. So when we want to establish our Dibya Sambandha, our eternal connection with the Lord, we approach in the mood of Sanatana Goswami. So he spoke these two verses, and he says, Apanada hita hita kichu najani, Gamyavavahara pandita tai satyamani. He says, I know, before you start, maybe you heard something about me. People say that I'm a big pundit, that I know 6 languages, that I know Shastra like anything. But apanara hita hita kichuna najani. I don't know what's good for me and what's bad for me. This is my real situation. Huh? And then Sanatana Goswami goes on. Kripa kori jari more kariyache udar. You please udar, you please deliver me. You've done this, Kripa Kori, out of your mercy. Apana Kripati Kaha Kartabya Amar. Now I want to know, Kartabya Amar, what do I do? This is impersonalism. This is Nirvisesa Shunyavadi. We come to Krishna consciousness and we think it's all about me. We come to Krishna consciousness and it's all about how I can become delivered, how I can become famous, how I can, maybe even more grossly, how I can make money in the society of devotees, how I can become well known and have a big position in the society of devotees. And we don't really enter into Krishna consciousness at all. Suni lena sunakana, we're hearing, but we're not hearing, because it's ahamta and mamata are blocking things. So the beginning is Kartibya Amar, please tell me, what should I do? And then he speaks about who I am. Sanatana Goswami says, Kayami, who am I? I know 6 languages. I'm the prime minister for the Nawab Hussain Shah. I come from a fancy family. I'm super rich. I'm super educated. I'm so qualified in every way. Before he came to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's already writing books on bhakti. Before he came to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there in their village of Ramakeli in West Bengal, I visited there many years ago. They were worshiping deities of Krishna. That deity of Krishna is still there today. They made a Radha Kun, a Shama Kun, a Lalita Kun, a Vishaka Kun. They made kuns for all the Astasakis and the Astamanjaris. They had a Govardhan hill. They had a Vrindavan forest. That was how he grew up. It's not the way I grew up. But when he came to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, Kayami, Kani Amai. Who am I? Why do I jare tapa try? Why am I always suffering? How many of us speak like that when we come to sadhu? Instead, we want to say, here's my resume. I have this education, I have this degree, I have this knowledge, I come from this family, this thing. And we think, yes, this is me because I have to tell Gurudev about me so he'll understand something. But this is the way to come to Guru. This is Trinadapi Sunichena. And that Trinadapi Sunichena is our Siddha-pranali mantra. It's what's going to help us to understand our Siddha Deha. And therefore, Haridas Thakur says, Amita Adama, Tumi Adama Tarana. I'm fallen. You're the deliverer of the fallen. That's the first thing that I know. I'm not coming to you speaking about my mahamta, my mamata. Iha nahi jani kemani hita hoy. He says, if I don't know this thing, who I am and why I'm suffering, then how am I going to get any benefit? There's a beautiful prayer which describes a very similar thing. It's a prayer by Dhruva Maharaj to the Lord from the fourth canto of the Bhagavatam. Let's bring this up. Pumaya yada jana isha kandito yad anyad asasta vitatmano buddha yata chadid bala hitam pita swayam tatatwami vadasi nasamahitam. This is quoted quite often by our Goswamis in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in Jiva Goswami Sundarbhas, and different commentaries. It's an important verse. Because of Maya, because of this illusory energy, jana isha kandito, there's some separation between the living entities and the Lord. In other words, they don't understand their Siddha Deha. They don't understand their constitutional position. Yet anyat asasta ritatmano buddha. And because of that, asasta ritmano buddha, they have this understanding, this abuddha, this improper understanding, that I want to try to enjoy some material benefits, as Prabhupada says, of society, friendship, and love. Yata charid balahitam pita swayam. Therefore, Dhruva Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj is praying to the Lord that just as a father understands what's best for the son. You see, I was just going out of a drugstore the other day, and I was noticing that just right by the cash register, they have a lot of candy and there's a lot of toys. And why is that? Because when the parents are bringing the children out, the children are bored out of their brain shopping in that shop, in that store. And then as they're coming out and the mother or father are waiting to go through the line and pay their money, there's these nice toys and things. There's a little Spider-Man doll, a little this doll and that, and some candies and things. And the child's, I have to have that. I want that. So, but the child doesn't know what's good for them. The child wants to eat some sugar. The child wants to drink some Coca-Cola, which, by the way, Coca-Cola is highly recommended. It's one of the most first-class ways I've ever found to clean out your drain. You try this, and I'm being dead serious. You buy a big 2-liter bottle of Coca-Cola. If you have a drain that's blocked, you just pour it in the evening down the drain and just let it sit. And you come the next morning, and it just clears everything out. It's also useful for cleaning toilets. It's good for many different things. But some children, they like to drink that stuff. It's not very good for your body. They like to drink that. So yatacharid bala hitam pita swayam. So in the same way, I don't know what's good for me because I have this ahamta and mamata. I have this misunderstanding of myself. So when I'm approaching you, I just want, you please give me some money, dhanam dehi, rupam dehi, give me some physical beauty, give me a good wife, a good husband. I want this thing, I want that thing. I have a list, like I'm writing a letter to Santa Claus. I've been a good boy. I chatted my japa. I went to Mangalartik, said, Dear Santa Claus Krishna, please give me this, 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 and this. But this is the proper approach is given by Dhruva Maharaj. This is the approach that the proper disciple does in connection with Guru to establish our sambandha with Krishna, to realize our Siddha Swarup, our Siddha Deha, our eternal spiritual body, that we pray in a mood of humility. Tanadapi Sanichena is our Siddha-pranali mantra. Yatacharid balahitam pitasvim tatatvam mahitam. I don't know what's good for me. So you give me whatever is the best thing for me. And this is the same prayer that Sanatana Goswami is praying. Kayami Kedi Amai Jadi Tapatrai. I don't know who I am. I don't know why I'm suffering. So you please tell me. And then Sanatana Goswami, let's see. Bonnie, that's a great comment. It's good for acid reflux. Sanatana Goswami goes on to describe the Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sanatana Goswami is the Lord's eternal associate, but he's teaching us how to approach the Lord. He says, Sadhya sadhana tattva puchite najani. I don't know what is sadhya. I don't know what is sadhana. Sadhya means the goal. What is your sadhana? You have to understand the sadhya. What is your goal? The sadhana means something I'm going to perform to obtain the sadhya, to obtain my goal. So, but if you don't know what your sadhya is, tattva puchite najani, you don't understand that, then how are you going to understand your sadhana? So he says, Kripa kori sabha tattva kahate ta apani. You please teach me this thing, give me this thing. So this is how we approach Guru, through this Chanadapi Sunichina mood. And therefore, this Chanadapi Sunichina verse, this is our Siddha-pranali mantra. Boy, it's a lot. There's so many things. Let's look at a few more verses and things here and discuss them. But I'm feeling like already today we've already given quite a lot to digest, and maybe it might be good just to stop at this. But let's just pull up a few other things. This is a verse from the Brahma-vivarta Purana, which is quoted by Srila Jiva Goswami, and Anucheta 236. Ahankara nivitanam keshavo nahi durga. Ahankara yutanam hi madhye parvata rasaya. That the Lord, he's Keshava nahi durga. It's easy to get Keshava, Krishna. Nahi durga, it's not hard at all. For those persons who are ahankara nivitanam, who've given up their ahankar for their false ego, but ahankara yutanam, for those persons who are thinking, I'm a very big, important person, it's like my Guru Maharaj. Sometimes devotees, they say, Madhavananda, you speak, and it's too controversial, it's too heavy what you say, but I'm nothing compared to my Guru Maharaj. But he had some adhikar that I don't have. I remember one big temple with lots of Prabhupada disciples. He was giving one class, and he said one morning, he said, Bhagavatam class, he says, don't you know who I am? He said, I'm temple commander, temple president, Prabhupada disciple, GBC guru, demon. This is this ahankara. And we channel that in some so-called spiritual way. Now I'm saying this and we're all chuckling, those rascals are like that, but those rascals are us. Whoops. Those rascals are us. As Fakir Mahbub used to tell us, don't quote Shastra to use as a stick to beat other people. Shastra is meant to beat you. We should beat ourselves with it and not be like neophytes who try to use something like that to attack others. So as long as we have this ahankar, sahamta and mamata, these two aspects of ahankar, ahankara yutanam hi madhya parvata rasaya. It's like there's a madhya parvata rasaya. There's a huge parvata, means mountain range, in between us and the Lord. But ahankara nivitanam keshavohi nahi duraga. It's not hard at all to approach the Lord if we adopt if we give up this ahamta, mamata, and we do that by taking shelter of Guru through the process of chanting the holy name. Now, it would be a whole nother subject to speak about, but just to give a little road sign and point at some possible direction to go in. Some people, they consider that, oh, what it means to be a proper disciple is that I just chant Jai Gurudev, Jai Gurudev, Jai Gurudev, or I chant my Gurudev's pranam mantra, my beads. I have a godbrother who was advocating that to some, and ironically, I should mention historically, that same godbrother, after one class in the morning in Bhubaneswar, we were walking down the steps of Guru Maharaj, and he asked a question. And he said, Guru Maharaj, I don't know Krishna, but I know my Guru. So isn't it better that I chant the name of my Guru than the name of Krishna? He directly asked that. And I was there. I remember that very clearly. And Guru Maharaj became angry and slammed his cane down on the ground and said, no, Guru says you chant Krishna's name because Guru is Chanadapi Sunichina. He's Sevaka Bhagavan. Krishna is Savior. He's meant to be served. And Gurudev is Sevaka. He's the person, he's a Sevak. He's the person who's giving a service to Krishna. And because Gurudev himself is situated in this Trinadapi Sunichina, which is his city, then he doesn't want things for himself. He may accept sometimes, he might even demand sometimes, hey, you rascal, you should give that money. Hey, you rascal, you should give me a garland. My Guru Maharaj once chat. There's one Mataji who came to him and asked for initiation. He gave her. She asked him for service. She was a housewife. And in Bhubaneswar, Orissa, very traditional place with some children and a husband, being a housewife means you're very busy with a lot of different things. And she said, what can I do for you, Gurudev? Guru Maharaj told her, you make a flower garland for me every day. It was a very insignificant service. Sometimes devotees were offering 20 or 30 garlands a day, probably a minimum of 5 or 6 garlands a day to Guru Maharaj. So many people were giving garlands, but this Mataji was making one every day, but she couldn't give it. She'd make the garland, she'd give it to her husband would give it to some other devotee, and somebody, one of the senior men, would put it on Guru Maharaj. And we would give him so many garlands, it would cover his head, so he would take them off and put them on the seat next to him. So one day she was sick, 2 days or something, she didn't show up. And she came back and Guru Maharaj chastised her, called her over and said, where's your garland? Now, nobody told him whose garland it was, but he knew. So where's your service? Now you may think this guy's really puffed up off his head, man. Why is he demanding from someone that they make a garland for him and worship him? But that's my Guru Maharaj's humility. That he's just thinking himself a pipe to Krishna, and he's demanding, you do this thing. Srila Prabhupada sometimes demanded from certain devotees, you collect money. Why you couldn't collect this other money? I told, but it's not for himself. But when we sometimes give a bad name for anybody who wants to collect money, or any guru who tells you to collect money, or any guru who says a disciple should worship him. But that's the standard. But it's not for themselves. So there's a connection, as we discussed in our last session. We quoted from Bhakti Sandarbha Anucheta 270, wherein Srila Jiva Goswami speaks about how kirtan, iyam cha kirtanakya bhakti bhagavato dravya, how this kirtan is recommended for the age of Kali, but it especially manifests for devotees who are Dina Janaika, who consider themselves to be very, very fallen and humble. Those persons who have this attitude that I have some wealth, I have some big birth, that's bishai, that's poison. But those who are free from those things, then they can actually chant the holy name. So this Siddha-pranali, or this Chanadapi Sunichi verse, this is our Siddha-pranali mantra. And the mood of Sanatana Goswami is reflected in this ashabandha. Ashabandha means, bandha means a connection. Asha means a hope. Ashabandha, we can say, means a firm hope or a hope for a connection. Because Sanatana Goswamis are Sambandha Acharya. And this is a characteristic, this verse we're going to share with you, is a characteristic of a Jata Rati Bhakta. Someone who a little bit of Rati has developed in him. And Jiva Goswami in Bhakti Sandarbha says this is the minimum qualification for Raganuga Bhakti. They may not have yet have come to the point of Nishita Bhajana Kriya, where they're free from material desires largely, but they have some little taste, which Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes in another place, another long discussion, comes from hearing direct Krishna Katha from a Sudha Vaishnava. So let's see, this is a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya chapter 23. This is Sanatana Goswami's expression to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Na prema shavanadi bhaktirapi vayogo tava vaishnavo jnanam vasubhakarma vaki yadahosas jatirapyastirva. He says, this is me. He makes a list. We want to make a Christmas list to Krishna. Oh, dear Santa Claus, Krishna, please, this is my wish list. I want this thing and this thing. But this is Sanatana Goswami's list that he's stating, and this is who I am. He came and approached the Lord and said, saying that, Kayami, I don't know who I am. And he says, Na prema, I have no love for you. Shavanadi bhakti, I have no bhakti. I'm not doing Shavanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Adi means etc. And Shavana here refers to the Navavidi Bhakti, the first of the 9 different processes. I can't say that I'm a great devotee. I never go to Mangal Artik, or maybe I'm going to Mangal Artik, but where is my head? Where is my heart? Na prema Shavanadi Bhakti. I am not doing Shravanam Kirtanam Navavidi Bhakti. Abhava Yoga. I am not doing yoga. My chitta is all over the world, all over the place. I'm not doing yoga according to Patanjali. Tava Vaishnava, I don't think that I'm a Vaishnav. Yeah, I have Tilak and Kunti Mala, but I'm not actually a Vaishnav. Jnanam, I have no knowledge. Subha Karmava, I don't have any good behavior. Kiyadaho says Jatirapyashtirva, says Jati, I don't have a big aristocratic birth. I wasn't born from, my parents weren't devotees. I wasn't born in Gurukula. Hinatadika sadaki tvaita tapya chidya mula sati. He says, I don't have anything, but I have this hope that, my dear Lord, you're hina artadika sadake tvaita tapya chidya mula sati. You're that personality who gives more mercy, more benedictions to those sadhaks, those devotees who are hina artadika, who don't consider themselves qualified, who consider themselves to be the most fallen. Tatapya achidya mula sati. This is my mula, my root of my hope. Hey gopi janavalabha vyatayate ha ha madashaiva mam. And it's significant here. He could have said, hey Vishnu janavalabha vyatayate. He could have said, hey Krishna janavalabha vyatayate. But he said, hey gopi janavalabha. He's not praying to Vishnu. He's not even praying to Krishna. He's praying to Krishna, who's Gopi Janavalabha, who's the Lord of the gopis. And I'm the most fallen, I'm the most useless person, but I want Gopinath Krishna. Dvibhuj Murlidhar, playing the flute and the Ras Leela. This is what I want. Ha ha madasaiva mam. This is my asha, this is my hope. And vyatayate, it's causing so much pain in my heart because I see that I'm not qualified. And therefore, my Guru Maharaj used to say that your only qualification is your disqualification. When we own it, when we accept the bishad, the poison of our situation. This is Tanadapi Sunichena. This is our Siddha-pranali mantra. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur sings in Kalyana Kalpataru, beautiful song. Garita achare rohi lama moji nakorinu sadhu sangam loy sadhu besha ani upadeshi ebodo mayada ranga. Who am I? This is our sambandha. When you approach someone else and you make a relationship with someone else, you have to tell them who you are. So who am I? Well, this is the story of my life. Garita achare. My achar, my behavior is garita means like something from a really scary movie where all the young people were cut to by some mass murderer and cut into little pieces and they're screaming, and it's a horrible, terrible movie. This is my achar. This is my behavior. It's frightening. Rohilam emoji. I'm just absorbed in that. Nakorino sadhu sangha. I never really did sadhu sangha. So I can't come to Gurudev, I can't come to sadhu and say, yes, I'm such a big person, because I didn't really do sadhu sangha. What does that mean? I've seen so many pictures of you with Guru Maharaj, with sadhu. It means that I'm there like a mosquito, but I've not really understood the mood of Gurudev. I haven't approached Gurudev in the proper way and revealed my heart and owned and accepted this bishad, this yoga of lamentation, of accepting my fallen position. Therefore, I've not really done sadhu sangha. But then what's going on? Loy sadhu vesh ani upadeshi eboda mayada ranga. Here I am on online, giving on Zoom, giving an online class, dressed like a sadhu, giving instructions to everybody. He says, eboda mayada ranga. This is Maya's big joke. This is reality. This is Gaudiya Vaishnavism. It's not like the church or some institution or something like we see also in Jagannath Puri, where people have a big position. It's very, very important that we practice this Trinadapi Sunichena, but we have to have an object that we express, that we bring that humility before. Not just that I sit alone in my room and I think, I'm so humble, I'm really humble, I'm really humble. But humility means that we approach the Lord at his feet. The Lord is also known as Prabhupada. And that's one of the names for the Lord, because all the Prabhus are at his feet, at his pada. We approach Prabhupada, we approach Gurudev, because Gurudev is Krishna's representative. And that's the epitome of Trinadapi Sunichena. So I'm going to stop here. I think it's a lot to digest. And I've maybe gone through 1/3 of what I want to speak about Guru and Guru-seva and Siddha-pranali. But I'd rather that we don't get stomach aches. I'd rather that we can digest things properly and we go little by little. I'd like to keep looking back out of respect to Fakir Mohan Prabhu. So if anybody has any reflections or comments or questions, this is a good time for it. Nice to see Siddha Hari Prabhu here too, and Raghunagar Bhakti Prabhu. Welcome to the Sangha, Raghunagar Bhakti Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Dorothy, do you want to share something with us, Dorothy?
Krishna Madhavananda Prabhu, thank you so much for the wonderful session. I'm very, very grateful again to be in this Sangha. Please accept my humble obeisances. So you said that that you gave the example of Sanatana Goswami, who came to Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu and came with this attitude of who am I, and yeah, what do I do, and so I have been contemplating this before, that yeah, what if I just go to a sadhu like this and with this attitude, but couldn't it also be that the sadhu or Gurudev could feel like, okay, she's asking such basic questions like who am I, or like didn't you read that in Prabhupada's books? Or like, you know, that because we have read it before, we have heard it before in so many lectures. So couldn't it, maybe the sadhu would also feel tested, like in a bad way. Like sometimes there are malicious people who just test those who are yeah, to just test if they know something or if they give the right answer. So I don't want to make the sadhu feel like this, and so this is what's holding me back a little bit. Could you please comment on that?
Yeah, let's look again at this line from Sanatana Goswami. This is before he starts speaking. Let's look at this. An important word here which I didn't touch on. Tabi Sanatana Prabhu Charni Dadiya Daina Vinata Kori Dante Trina Lana. He began speaking. This phrase, Dante Trina Lana, is significant. He put straw in his teeth and then he spoke. Well, now think about that for a moment. You don't have to be a physics major or biology professor to understand that if you've got grass in your teeth, you're not going to be able to say anything. So what does it mean? What it indicates is that what he's about to say is not from the lips, but it's from the heart. So you're right. We've all heard this thing, 16,108 times. You're not your body. You're not your body. You know you're not your body, right? You're not your body. Yeah. I've heard that, and you're a spirit soul. Yeah. I've heard all that. But there's a difference between just speaking that from the lips and speaking it from the heart. And we have to really come and speak it from the heart. And what does it mean to speak it from the heart? To speak this particular thing? It means that I'm having an existential crisis because I don't know who I am. It's not just that, yeah, theoretically I heard something that I'm a spirit soul and therefore I should chant Hare Krishna. And then if I go to Mangal Arti every day, they'll give me some milk sweets or something from the deity. And everybody will praise me as a great devotee. But it means that I have to come to this existential position where I'm crying out to the Lord, which my Guru Maharaj used to call Atma Krandana, or the crying of the soul. It's not just an intellectual adjustment. And how do we come to that? Okay, it's also nice that I can say this and I can tell you I'm repeating this from the lips. Am I repeating this from the heart? Am I repeating this from the lips? This movement, everything in this movement is from the heart. But aren't most of us, or so many of us, speaking just from the lips and not from the heart? And we're coming and saying, don't speak from the lips, speak from the heart. But I'm saying it from the lips. There's still some benefit. We should have some understanding of that. We should be honest. Because these words are very powerful. These concepts are very powerful. And in more in regard to your question, when we approach someone, just like when you approach, you can make friends with the class. When I was in grade school in America, in high school, we changed. My parents were moving quite a lot. My father was in the military. And so when you go to a new class, they introduce you. This is such and such, and now tell us where you're from. And you stand in front of the class and you say, my name is, and I'm from, and you say this thing and this thing, because you're trying to make a sambandha. You're trying to make a connection with everyone, and you're making, but that little lecture that you give as an 8-year-old, 10-year-old child standing in front of everybody, it doesn't really make a connection with anything. They just know a few external things about you. Now, when you really make friends with someone, it means guyam akyati prichati. The 6 different types of loving exchanges which constitute friendship. One of them is guyam akyati prichati, that we exchange some confidential things. Did you know? I'll tell you something really secret. I like such and such boy. And the girls always speak like that. I know, isn't it? Other boys say, this girl, I just go mad when I see her. Don't tell anybody. Oh my God. Definitely don't tell. It's guyam. And on the strength of you revealing your heart to that person, that becomes a strong connection. It's not just that you stand in front of everybody and say, my name is, I was born in such and such city, I have this education, my parents are like this, and now you have a connection with everyone. The connection is established when we reveal our heart. And that's what bhakti is really about, and we're trying to learn that. So maybe you can correctly accuse me of just speaking from the lips about this subject. I accept chastisement and that thing, but this is our siddhanta. This is our process. And our humility will be shown in that we repeat what we've heard. But that's also going to depend on another thing. It's going to depend on the quality of our faith. Because if we don't really have faith, it's a great test. If we don't really have faith in the holy name, then you think, well, there's this cabal, this conspiracy thing going on, and the COVID thing, it's a whole new World Reich thing that they're trying to do, and I've got to expose it because I want to save the devotees. Okay, that's fine. I love everybody in this world. We want to accept, we're not going to try to force anybody to do anything, but I can see the quality of your faith. You don't really believe that chanting the holy name is going to solve everything. It's okay. I'll chant the holy name, but I'm also going to do this expose, and I'm going to do this online thing. I'm going to smash these rascals. I'm going to expose them, and that's going to solve the problem. You don't really have faith in the holy name. But I've had good fortune to be around a few sadhus in my life, very exalted personalities, and I could see that's their solution for everything. And they're detached when they see that the children, that the young devotees, they're attached to playing games. Just like we went to a shop yesterday, and coming out, the shop, there was a little toy man, army man with a gun. And I asked the shopkeeper, I said, oh, this is your security here for the shop? And he laughed and he pointed to a little boy, he was like about 5 or 6 years old, who was there. That's his. So that child has that toy that he likes to have. And we all, like children, we have our little toys. We have our solutions for different problems and things. But it means that we have komala shraddha. Our faith is weak. It's not shastriya shraddha. It's not drida shraddha. It's not faith based on shastra, which comes from hearing from sadhu. It's not fixed faith. It's weak faith. And let's own it. Let's confess that. Na prema shravanadi bhakti rapi vayogo tava vaishnava. Sanatana Goswami says, I don't have any of these things. Na prema shravanadi bhakti. I'm not doing sadhana bhakti. I don't have any faith. I don't have anything. But I have this one hope. Hinartika sadaki tvaita chapyacha mula sati. I have this rude hope that Krishna, you're very kind and merciful to people who come and approach you in a humble way. Is that helpful, Dorothy? An important question. Thank you. Leela Purushottam Prabhu. Can we get to see your smiling face?
Krishna Prabhu, my pranams. I just wanted to maybe will show my impudency, but I remember in one class, and it really hit me hard. You explained that you can't really be of real service to your guru until you know him. So in that regard, we've been discussing, because Mataji Dorothea was asking that one might feel hesitate to ask, who am I? Not being it fully truthful, because we may many times think that we know actually, and that's what you were talking about in the answer. But I'm thinking of the upgrade of the curiosity. I'm speaking about genuine curiosity. Is that legal question, genuine curiosity, like with the intention for the purity and quality of your service to the Guru? Is that legal to ask Gurudev, please explain me, who am I, who are you, and what is our relationship? Because usually, who am I is still quite, it can be accepted as a humble question. We have that example by Sanatana Goswami. But I have even stronger feeling in the same way, or what Mataji Dorothea had about this question, about the question, Gurudev, who are you? Usually we don't meet with like readiness to give the answer, and then like as you mentioned that example with Srila Prabhupada, the disciple asking about his relationship to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. That's not for you. And I have the same experience with my Guru Maharaj when we as a disciples try to ask him about his experiences with Srila Prabhupada. He was always so reluctant. Like he said, that doesn't belong to you. That belongs to me. It's within my heart. And we had to digest it. So I'm just curious about this question. Like, what if we put the whole scenario of a discussion would be genuine question, who am I? In the same way, genuine, humble question, who are you? Yeah. And what is our relationship?
I remember once I was on Parikrama, Brajmandal Parikrama in 1996, just a little after my Guru Maharaj left, with a large group of devotees. And one of my godbrothers came up to me very excitedly during the Parikrama. Guru Maharaj had just left a few months before. And he revealed his heart a little bit. He said, Madhavendra, what do you think? Someone told me that Gurudev is Champakalata Saki. It was one of the Astasakis. This is actually Guru Maharaj's Swarup. And it was not philosophical on my part. I just remember becoming so annoyed with him that I was practically ready to strike him, and hit him, something. And I just started, but I didn't yell exactly, but I spoke very harshly to him. I'm sorry. And I told him, basically, just get away from me. And I told him I don't like to speculate on these kind of things. Because Guru Maharaj had told me previously, it's a long personal thing, but Guru Maharaj had told me I asked him privately at an opportune moment once about Prabhupada's Swarup and about himself, and he refused. He said, I won't speak about this thing. Mm-hmm. And he told us that this is something you should realize. So, in answer to your question then, what is the answer? Let's look at this verse, which I've been quoting repeatedly. I just looked it up in Harinam Chintamani. This is Haridas Thakur's words. I said the first chapter, but it's actually from the 11th. He says, Amita Adama, I am fallen. And who are you? Tumi Adama Tarana. You are the deliverer of the fallen. So now I can speculate, my Gurudev is a Manjari, my Gurudev is Champakalaka Saki, my Gurudev is this thing or that thing. But it's just complete rubbish. It's just kolpana. It's just some imagination at best on my part, and maybe some aparad. This is my sambandha right now, that I identify myself as being fallen, and Gurudev is to deliver the fallen. So this is such a beautiful verse to me that it expresses very appropriately my inner conception at this point in my spiritual life. Instead of trying to speculate, I am such and such Manjari, I'm married to such and such person, I wear such and such colors, sorry, I do this service, I live in this village, and go through those different Ekadas Bhav things, which we spoke about in one of our previous sessions, which are described by Jan Chandra Goswami in his Gaur-Govinda Smarana Archana Padati. This is appropriate. This is not kalpanam, this is reality. I'm fallen, and Gurudev, you're the deliverer of the fallen. I remember reading, there was one devotee who really struck me. I had the good fortune to have Sangha with some, and that was Trivikram Maharaj, not our ISKCON Trivikram Maharaj. I've also had quite a bit of his association over the years. But this Trivikram Maharaj was a disciple of Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Maharaj. He was one of the founders of the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti. And somehow he had some affection for me. And we used to go and hear something. He was a very, very simple, beautiful sadhu. Although he's one of the three founders of the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti, he never accepted disciples. He's a big sannyasi. He was a big man in the Sangha, but he had a few Siksha disciples, but he never gave initiation. And I remember reading a Vyas Puja offering that he wrote to his Guru Maharaj once. And he said in the offering, he said, Guru Maharaj, some people say you're a gopi. Some other disciples say that you're a manjari. Some may say that you're a cowherd boy or that you're a peacock or a tree in Vrindavan. He said, I don't know who you are. I don't even know if you have perfection or not. He says, all that I know is that you're my Gurudev and you're my everything. And when I read that, I felt so happy. This is real honesty. Not that I'm going to go and say, my Gurudev is a Siddha Mahatma, is this or that. Then somebody will say, well, how do you know? Well, it takes one to know one. I can say that because, and we have all these big, big arguments, and people write books about what is Prabhupada's Swarup. But is it something that they realized? And therefore, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita says, Raja Vidya, Raja Guyam, that thing which is the king of knowledge, which is, what is the king of knowledge in Gaudiya Vaishnavism? To realize my Gurudev's Swarup. That's Raja Guyam. It's the most confidential thing. And it's something pratyak savagamam dharmyam susukam kartamavyam. It has to be practically experienced. So yes, my Guru Maharaj used to say that. I remember one lecture he gave at Jagadatma Prabhu's house in Bhubaneswar, must have been in 94, 95. And Guru Maharaj was saying there that unless you've seen the Swarup of your Guru, you've been cheated. So what is that? My God. So then, the next thing you know, you're going to have a queue of people outside your door, a queue of disciples. Gurudev, please reveal your Swarup to me, please. But it's not something that you can just turn on and off like a switch. It's something that we do want to realize, but it's something pratyak savagamam dharmyam. This is a dharma which we'll practically realize. And so for us, this verse here, which kind of echoes in the spirit of the Trinada Pisa Nichina verse, this verse to me is a Siddha-pranali mantra. Amita adama tumi adamatarna. This is who I am, and this is who my Gurudev is. And I don't, like Trivikram Maharaj, an elderly sannyasi, I don't know who Gurudev is. I don't even know if he's a perfected person or not, because I'm not perfect. All that I can say is that he's Adamatarana. He's the deliverer of the fallen. He's my Gurudev. He's my everything. Is that helpful, Purushottam Prabhu?
Very much. Very helpful. Thank you. It's kind of it goes with the same parallel that what you're discussing all those last classes to show that it's not a matter of external thing, like putting a question, because what would be on the plate immediately actually would be the risk that you don't really have the adhikar, and it wouldn't be actually helpful to your practice. Like in a same way, in whatever way you would practice the prescription for the higher adhikar, it would harm your own practice in a sense. Prasvadikare, that thing from Bhagavatam. So in that sense, in the same way as we discussed that we don't really are interested in receiving the knowledge of our Svarupa in an external way, let's say from the mouth of someone, from the lips of someone, but rather want it to be revealed in our heart. So we can say the same thing about the Gurudev Svarup. even though the intention and motivation would be like, because that was the impetus for my question, like remembrance of your statement that your service to Guru will never be real, complete, without knowing him perfectly, in a sense, like completely. So in that sense, we just have to accept honestly and realistically that much that I can know, which can refer to verse you're quoting, which is a wonderful verse actually. Like it's so simple. I am Adama, and you are the one who can deliver the fallen. So that's actually, at that point, it's enough knowledge of the, it's enough answer to that question. And who are you, Gurudev?
There can be a lot of trouble when a child wants to try to imitate adults in a way that's beyond his adhikar, his or her adhikar, and try to present himself as a teacher or a doctor or a policeman or this or that, and they don't have that position, they don't have that qualification, and so many problems come. And therefore, Jiva Goswami in Bhakti Sandarbha, he says there's two types of bhakti, kaitava and akaitava, or cheating bhakti and bhakti which is not cheating. And akaitava bhakti, or bhakti which is not cheating, is bhakti which is bishad. It's bishad yoga. When we accept our fallen position, just like Sanatana Goswami, and therefore he is the Sambandha Acharya, because he prays, not prema shravanadi bhakti yoga. I don't have any prema, I don't have any sadhana. Kayami, I don't know who I am. The guy who says, I don't know who I am, he's our Acharya for our connection with Guru and Krishna, because we have to approach in that way. And yeah, it's frustrating, and gee whiz, I've been doing this now for 3 months. I should have realized my sweep, or I've been doing this for 30 years or 60 years or 360 years or 360,000 million years. But I don't know who I am, therefore I'm going to imitate it. It's not going to help. It's just kolpanam. We want something real.
Yeah, and also in that regard, actually, I just can't remember where exactly is it from, Bhajan Rahasya or somewhere, that actually that how like that revelation of your own Svarup and Gurudev's Svarup go hand by hand. It's like parallel. Like at one, when one reaches a certain level of purification and intensity of bhajan and hankering for that, then simultaneously, so to say, more or less, it's revealed both of the things, like your own Svarup and Gurudev's Svarup.
Yeah, therefore, the word pranali means a stream of a river, and Siddha-pranali literally means the stream of perfection. And Siddha-pranali, one of the most important aspects of it is to understand who is the Swarup of your Guru, your Param Gurudev, your Parat Param Gurudev, your Paraparat Gurudev, going all the way up. What is all their Swarups? That's a very important thing.
Yeah, that's what it originally means, exactly. Yeah, that's, that you can be connected to that chain on the spiritual level, not only on the shiksha level, but on.
And we agree with that. We don't disagree with that. We totally agree with that, but we strongly disagree that it's for something that can be imitated by neophytes. Rather, I was just reading a beautiful article by Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj recently about how important it is to daily, he gives some pramanas, I don't remember the verse, I think it's from Balaji Vidyabhushan's Prema-bhakti-candrika, how we should daily recite our parampara. And I started doing it a month or two ago. I used to do it actually before we read Bhagavad Gita. And it's a very satisfying thing. Narada, Krishna, Brahma, Narada, Vyasa, Madhva, Padmanabha, Nihari, Kshobhya, Jayatirtha, Gana Sindhu, Dayanidhi, Vijayani. And you just go and you just say their names and you offer some prayer in your heart to them until you come to Srila Prabhupada and to your Gurudev. Because this is my everything. But this is a bit of a confidential subject. This session and our next session is a bit confidential. Confidential because it's not spoken about overtly in so many places because sadhus don't want to claim to be a sadhu. And some people don't really have qualification for it. They only have qualification for doing some bhakti mukhi sukriti, for doing some kind of sukriti, bhakti sukriti, that they're getting some pious benefit in terms of bhakti, but they don't have faith in sadhu. And they're attached, they have this ahamta and mamata, and therefore they can't come and pray sincerely, Amita Adama, that I'm fallen to me, Adamatarni, the deliverer of the fallen. They can't really say it, it's just from the lips. And so for such people, that's fine. Just keep chanting Hare Krishna, do Tulsi Parikrama, and worship the deity and do all those things. But if you really want to go deep on this thing, then we have to realize Tate Krishna Bhaja Kori Guru Sevan. My Krishna Bhajan, Chaitanya Charitamrita says, is actually my Guru-seva. I'm doing that Krishna Bhajan as a service for my Gurudev. And we'll speak more later about that. We just lost Tirthakar Prabhu.
Yeah. It actually, what comes to me, it perfectly shows the reality of the whole discussion. If we consider that explanation of Siddha-pranali, that it means the spiritual perfected identities of the whole parampara, then we ourselves can so easily consider how light and more or less, I say, meaningless that information is for us if it's just information, because for many personalities we know it. We can read. Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari. Raghunath Das Goswami is Rati Manjari. We can read it. But until it's really revealed within our heart, and it's part of our bhajan, of our reality, of our realization, it's just, I say just, quote unquote, information. It's good to know, it's nice, but so in the same way, what I want to say by it is that in the same way we could understand how meaningless would it be if we would just hear these information about our Guru, about even our Svarup. Just someone tells you, oh, you are this and that. Oh, great, wonderful. What do I do about it? So until it's really the part of your realization of the inner revelation, it still remains only on the platform of information, and it's not really part of our bhajan. Actually, it's not practically used in our bhajan.
It's one of those
we
ridiculous.
Are much more, I just wanted to conclude. We are much more concerned in our sadhaka endeavors with the instructions of Rupa Goswami rather than imagining what Rupa Manjari's services are. Well, we may read about it actually, but it's not part of our bhajan actually. Yeah, please, I interrupted you.
No, that's beautiful. I really appreciate your comment, Prabhu. Thank you so much. I'm going to look at Bonnie's comment. She says here, what you say about lack of faith in the holy name in regards to people who wanted to expose the lives of COVID is interesting. The same could be said for those who are so afraid of COVID that they locked up all the temples and promoted forcing all people to take gene therapy vaccines. Raki Krishna Madhikar, Krishna, yeah. I agree with that. There's two sides to every coin. I'm not particularly impressed with either side. If you talk about the vaccination thing, I'll openly, publicly declare, I'm sorry, I never got vaccinated. But I'm not against people who did either. What I'm pro is bhakti, and I'm firmly convinced that some devotees, perhaps because they were misinformed, I don't want to try to judge them, but I'm firmly convinced that some devotees were advocating the vaccination out of a sense of bhakti, that we should protect the devotees and then they die and things. And then maybe it's backfired and maybe they're going to get sick and even die from the vaccination. That may be. But Krishna's Bhava Grahi Janardhan. He sees the sentiment of the devotees. And I'm firmly convinced, I know a few leaders who were advocating that everybody get vaccinated. And I'm convinced that they did it out of love for the devotees. And that's what I want to see. I don't want to be COVID conscious. I want to be Krishna conscious. I want to be conscious of Krishna bhakti. And maybe they screwed up. Maybe they made a big mistake, a huge mistake. I don't know. I don't even want to go there. I just really don't care. I was never against the vaccination thing so much. I just wasn't convinced by it. So we just kind of stayed away and we did our thing. Okay. Thank you, Bonnie. Anybody else want to share anything? Orsi, you want to share something? I'm Krishna.
Hare
I hope
Krishna, Madhavananda Prabhu.
I hope this is helpful for you today, this session.
Thank you. I would like to ask you to comment on the Bindu fresh issue about there is a poem in I think the final page, The Fire of Love. Would you please comment something about that? It's really interesting.
About that verse on the last page of our most recent Bindu?
Yes.
Is that what you... Okay, let's
yes,
look
in
up.
the most recent, The Fire of Love, the poet Dina Chandidas.
Oh, the song by Chandidas. And what about it? The last line?
The whole poem is so interesting. Its point of view. So.
Okay, let me just bring it up on the board. First
Okay.
of all, here we can look at it. So Chandidas, he's speaking in this way. It's Krishna speaking to Radharani, and he's addressing Radharani as Bandhu, as a friend. Sometimes some devotees say that Prabhupada must be a gopa or cowherd boy because he addressed Krishna as Bandhu. But the gopis, sometimes they address each other as Bandhu also. It's a general kind of way. He says, my dear friend, ki ar bhali betari. What can I say? Apana kaya pririti kaino rahita nayanugare. That I become burned up by falling in love with you. And because of falling in love with you, then because of this priti, then rahite nari nugare. I've lost my home, I've lost my family. Kamana koriya sagara mariba. So now I'm drowning in this ocean. And what is this ocean? It's not the ocean of material existence, it's the ocean of love. I'm drowning in this ocean, and I have this one desire, sariba manera sada. And by having this particular desire, I'm going to get what I want. Just like we were speaking about sadhya and sadhana. If I have a sadhya, a goal, then I'll have a sadhana along with it. But if we don't have a goal first, you can't have a sadhana. A sadhana comes when we have a sadhya. So then I'll finally get what I want, and I'm going to die. And then in my next life, Maria Hoi Be Nandara Nanda Tomara Koribe Radha. I'll take birth as Nanda Maharaj's son because I'm always the son of Nanda Maharaj. My next life, and you'll become Radharani. Piriti Koriya Chadiya Jaiba Rahiba Kadambatale. Tribanga. See him, my eyes are not so good. Tribanga Haya Murali Puriba Jakana Jaibi Jale. then in my mood, I'll have this love for you as Krishna, then I can disappear. I'll disappear and I'll reappear. And this is something which we've just spoken about quite a bit in this particular issue from Baladi Vidyabhushan and Rupa Goswami and different acharyas, Srila Prabhupada, how Krishna is always present in Vrindavan, how this Vipralamba is external, but internal. It means externally separation, but internal union. And so I'll be wherever you go. Sometimes I'll appear, sometimes I'll disappear, and I'll be there when you go to fill water in the Jamuna, etc. Murali Suniya, when you hear that my flute, Mura Chahaibe, you're going to faint in ecstasy. Sahaja Kula Bhala. And that time you'll be Sahaja Kula Bhala. Bhala means a young girl. You'll be a Sahaja Kula, a very simple, innocent girl. Chandi Dasa Koi Tabi Sejani Bapiriti Kemonajvala. And then, as this innocent-minded girl, who Chandidas says in other songs, who very innocently fell in love with this boy, thinking that this would be such a wonderful thing to fall in love with him, this love would be so good. She didn't realize it's the most terrible, terrible poison, and it's going to burn her alive. And so this is the nature of love. There's both of these things are there. We see even in material relationships between husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend, it's not just sense gratification and happiness, but there's also so much pain involved with it too, in terms of separation, in terms of some quarrel or this or that. So this is the nature of divine love. It is jvala, it's burning like a fire. Viditi kemana jvala. Then we'll realize what that's like. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you very much.
And Raghunath Das Goswami says a similar thing in these verses in Vilap Kusa Manjali, which we don't have to speak about these, but he's speaking about how we have this aspiration to be a maidservant of Srimati Radharani, but we're suffering, and we feel this separation. So this, again, this is reality. And this is what our acharyas give to us. It's not that Rupa and Sanatana Goswami described it, that we should just have some kalpana, some imagination thing in our mind, and I'm having this dream, I'm seeing this person, I'm realizing this or that, but it's something which has to be practically realized. Is that helpful, Orsi? Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. It's good to have you here today. Let's see, Siddha Hari Prabhu, do you want to share something? Wow, we get to see your smiling face. That's an added feature.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for the katha. I appreciate for hosting this every week. Grateful to you. I especially appreciate the conversation you had with Leela Purushottam Prabhu, the Q&A. Somehow, whenever there's a Q&A, it becomes easier to digest what you're trying to say. And I really appreciate your answer to him. Sometimes these questions, I've also heard this before, as you mentioned from Guru Gobind Maharaj, that unless we know who our Guru really is, do we really know are we really his disciples? Are we really serving him? And to your point that we can be honest that wherever we are, we can go from that perspective, from our realization, and offer prayers from that perspective wherever we are, that how he's the one who is guiding us, gracing us, praying for us. And in that regards, he's our savior. And that's something good, that is a good foundation to work on. So really appreciate that. And that was a comment. And I wanted to offer also another thing was that I was also reading this same section recently in CC, the discussions between Sanatana Goswami and Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when he asked this question, who am I? I was also thinking another perspective that he's also setting an example for for us neophytes, at least for myself, that when we approach spiritual master, to not go there being puffed up. And you also touched upon the same topic that when we meet a spiritual master, we don't start keeping telling our stories, but really we want to know from him how to grow in bhakti, for which we have no knowledge at all. But somehow when I go and meet my spiritual master, I'm always thinking of myself, not so much about what I can actually, how I can serve him and how he can teach me. So I was also thinking in that regard that all this Sanatana Goswami himself was a perfected soul, as you also rightly pointed out, that when you went to that Ramakeli, as Radha Kund, Sham Kund, beautiful worship of Radha Krishna. But he just comes in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and says, who am I? I don't know. And Mahaprabhu gives like a whole description of like basics of Krishna consciousness, like very deep tattva. It's amazing. So that was just a reflection, two reflections there.
That's great. I have a reflection also. My reflection is directed toward Leela Purushottam Prabhu's comment. I'm going to give an explanation. Leela Purushottam has commented here, I always become blissful seeing that broad smile of Siddha Hari Prabhu. Now here's my comment. You should understand the meaning of his name. Siddha means perfected. And when you see that perfected smile of happiness, then Hari comes. Hari means someone who steals. And he steals your heart, he steals your mind with that broad smile. That's why he's called Siddha Hari.
Oh, no, I have a question. Thank you, Boo. I also had a question I wanted to share. Was you had you mentioned that you were speaking and Fakir Mohan Prabhu would listen, and it seems to me that in your initial years of Krishna consciousness, you had association with a lot of wonderful sadhus like Fakir Mohan Prabhu, your own Guru Maharaj, and you mentioned Trivikrama Swami Maharaj, and it seems it's very helpful to have such association as at least in the foundational years of Krishna consciousness. Although I mean we can't compare. I mean you're also continuing your spiritual life from past lives. But at the same time, it seems it's very vital to have a lot of good association of wonderful devotees for growing mature in Krishna consciousness. And sometimes because I serve here in the West and spend most of my time here in America serving the mission of Srila Prabhupada, or at least trying to. Sometimes I wonder that would it be better to actually find association of these wonderful sadhus who are present right now on the earth and try to seek their association in physical proximity, and how much of that should be done on a regular basis? I guess this is more like a personal question, not really a philosophical one, but I was just thinking about your association with sadhus.
It's a good question, and somebody recently wrote me a message, someone who's a servant of Radha Gopinath, and they wrote me pretty much the same exact question, that if we know that there's such a personality present, should we go there, should we not go there? It's not such a simplistic thing. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, in one letter, he said, we don't go to Vrindavan just by buying a ticket. So in a similar way, we don't do sadhu sangha just by buying a ticket and going to the sadhu. And someone may be very external. I can, sometimes devotees ask me, Guru, tell me something about your guru. And as Leela Purushottam was commenting about his own Guru Maharaj's comment, that's a really personal thing. I feel very uncomfortable because if I start talking about this and that, then I'm really promoting myself. But there's two stories that I often tell that, first of all, I got initiated by Guru Maharaj in 1993, and then he later, a few months later, he told me, I want you to come to India right away. I didn't have money. I had a lot of debts in America. And so I went out on the streets of Seattle, and I had the amount of debts that I had. Usually I was selling stickers and things. And usually it would take me many months or maybe a year or two to collect that kind of money. In 2 weeks, somehow I collected that. And in that time, I felt like I was crying. I felt like my Guru Maharaj was right next to me. I felt his presence so strongly. I was thinking of him and following his instruction. And then later in 1994, Guru Maharaj instructed that I should travel with him as his personal servant. Wow. And I went to Europe, and it was the first time I'd ever been to Europe. We went all over the place, and he was my best friend. He was the only person that I knew in most places. And I was sleeping under the bed he was sleeping in, or I was sleeping on the floor next to him. And he was just my best friend that I'd ever had. And then on the way back, flying from Heathrow Airport to Delhi, it was a long flight, and for like 4 hours, he was sitting next to me on the plane. I often tell this story, so I'm sorry to be heard before. But he was just sitting there, and he was not chanting japa, at least externally. He wasn't watching a movie. He wasn't reading anything. He wasn't talking. He wasn't looking around. He was just sitting, apparently looking at the seat right in front of him. and just kind of a blank way. And all of a sudden I had the strangest feeling in my life. Here I am next to this person, so close to me, our arms are touching. I've been with him for the last 5 weeks, traveling with him in Europe. He's my best friend, but now I don't know him at all. And I don't know where he is at all. And that's a realization, that's an anecdote that I like to claim because it's honest. And association with Guru is not just something that we buy a ticket and we go there. It may be, Guru Maharaj told me that I should come to India. I had to borrow money eventually to, well, that was in 94. 93, I collected that money. In 94, I was back with him in America, and then he told me to travel with him as a servant. And I didn't have money. I borrowed money to do that. But that was on his order. So in the same way, real association is not a question just of physical proximity, although physical proximity is something I'd like to speak about a little more later in terms of Siddha-pranali, in terms of Guru-seva, in terms of Nama-bhajan. Physical proximity also, our acharyas and shastras speak about the importance of that physical proximity. But it's not just something we can buy a ticket for. I've seen, there's one devotee who Guru Maharaj was so angry with because he was being nonsense, and Guru Maharaj shouted at him, "Get out." And he wouldn't leave the room. He just sat down like a small child pouting. And Guru Maharaj became very angry with him and went and was pushing him. Get out, get out. So it's not just that I can insist on being with Gurudev, but that association is something which is given and is a mercy. So it's something we should have permission for, something we should have blessings for. But it's not such a hard and fast thing either. We may have some inspiration in the heart that I should really go to Vrindavan, I should really go to this place because I want to be around this sadhu. We feel that inspiration in the heart. It's not just such a cut and dried thing. But generally speaking, in Shastra, when someone has some inspiration like that, Shastra recommends that you speak with, you get it confirmed by a Brahmin, meaning a learned, detached person, or some other sadhu. Is that helpful, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu, very helpful. Thank you for sharing your life experience.
Okay. Thank you, Siddhahari Prabhu. It's always so sweet to get your sangha. I really appreciate it. And Dorothy, you had another question, I think, and then I'm going to go to Gorni Tai Prabhu and then maybe back to Orsi. Dorothy?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Also, the first question was very helpful. The answer to my question. Thank you. So about what was said before, so there was it made me think of the example of Gangamata Goswamini, whose guru she went to him and he told her she should do bhajan in her palace because she's a princess, and but she did not pay any heed to his instruction. She just stayed with him and served him in physical proximity. So would you like to comment on that, please?
Yeah, that Guru will always test us to see what we really want. Because many people, they just want some comfort, they just want some family life, they just want some wealth or something. And then Sanatana Goswami tested that person who came to him and asked him for the touchstone. He said, yes, it's over there in the garbage. You can have it. Oh, it's in the garbage. Why are you keeping it in the garbage? You must have something more valuable. Well, I'll tell you about that if you throw it away. So he tested him in the same way that Sadhu Guru often tests us, in the same way that we test our friends. We test a girl tests her boyfriend. A young woman tests a young man who wants to marry her. Is your love for me real? Are you going to stay with me? Is your friendship real? Is it really genuine? Krishna also tests us. Guru also tests us in the same way. So we have to pass it, and that's a question of the heart. How pure our heart is. And we may speculate and say, oh, Gurudev is just testing me when he tells me to go away. But actually, just like the gopis, Krishna told them to go away when they came in the middle of the night, and the gopis refused. And that was Krishna's test. But maybe it's actually Gurudev's mercy also. And when we see Srila Prabhupada, he told that to Harikesh Prabhu, go away, you go and you preach. That's what Krishna told it to Kaliya. You go away, leave Vrindavan. That's what Prabhupada told his disciples, you leave Vrindavan. We have to have our heart purified enough that we can hear that voice. And the problem always comes when we're acting on a Bahirmukh level, on an external level. And we're doing things by the letter of the book, but we don't understand. We're not Saragrahi, we're Bharavahi. We're not understanding the essence of things. We're just seeing something external. And when we see just external things, then we become fanatics, and it becomes like a cult, and everything becomes very disturbing. But when we see the essence of things, and we can understand the heart of sadhu, then things are natural. It's not such an easy answer. I mean, I could give a little more 1 + 1 = 2 kind of answer like that, but it's not such a cut and dried thing, and I prefer to speak like this. Is that helpful?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Gauranitai Prabhu, do you want to share something?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I really appreciating your deep explanations and how you go back again and again. And I would comment that part of your strategy, preaching strategy or something like that. So I was listening Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj explanation about the crises of devotees. It's a beautiful series of class. And at the beginning, he mentioned that also we know many things from the acharyas, how to correct ourselves, how to go on the path of devotion. But we have a really great handicap. So in our time, the sadhakas are coming from a really bad background, have a lot of unwanted samskaras. It's very difficult to correct, very difficult to advance because the behavior of the beginners, just like demonical persons. Yes, we dress like devotees, but our behavior is for a long time is very bad. And the second, that the sadhus are very busy. Sadhus not just preach to the disciples, the sadhus are, most of them are taking a really great responsibility for management or for other things, opening temples. And then you cannot have time to approach them, very difficult to speak personally. And then what left, impersonal discussions, impersonal communications, which is not really opening the heart. Yes, we are listening videos, we're listening songs, means recordings, but it's not really the same as personally being present. So that means we have really handicaps. And after 10 years, if you are not really correctly listen, the class is not really correctly behave, then you become impatient. You don't have taste. And you're thinking, I'm 10 years here, 20 years here, and still I don't have taste, so I have to do something else. And that's one of the reasons why devotees become impatient and thinking, okay, maybe I ask this Siddha-pranali program, which is totally, not acceptable. I read my Shivaram Swami Maharaj book in Siddha-pranali, and he told 2 reasons, very good. One of the reasons why we have to consider is not a correct process, because the Babajis in Vrindavan, mostly they think that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and Srila Prabhupada are divided from the true path. And they said they are the true path. They are the heritage, or they are inherited the true path, and not Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj and not Srila Prabhupada. So that means if we ask them, it's really an offense for Prabhupada. I think it's very good reason why we have to be very careful. And we have to have faith in Srila Prabhupada. So that was my comment for you going back. You know, yeah, one thing I wanted to say, that if we feel we have no taste, the best method, go back to Shravanam. Consider you are a new devotee and try to again to build up your understanding of the Shastra and have Shastric faith minimum. Otherwise, you will use your mundane faith and you will use your experience from the material world. So go back until you are really not fixed your Shastric level, Shastric faith, and then you can start nicely associate with senior devotees, like really respecting them, and so on. So go back if you have no taste. That's my understanding also, and it's very, very useful what you do. Go back, because it's a very deep topic. It's not easy to digest. And one other things I wanted, but I need your comment.
Well, one thing is, it occurred to me when you were speaking that when you have a small group of people, like I spoke with Srila Prabhupada's Jamuna once, one of the most wonderful, effulgent devotees I've ever had the good fortune to meet in my life. I consider her really, truly one of the acharyas in our line. We spoke about her sometimes. And the first question I asked her, I said, what happened? Because I heard in the early days, there was only one bathroom and everybody was standing in the queue, the men and the women, for the bathroom. And Prabhupada was also waiting in the queue. And the men were giving class and the women were giving class and the men were leading kirtan and the women were leading kirtan. And it was no hierarchy and things. It was just a simple family. So what happened? And she explained something about the history of that. But it's a natural thing. If you have a house and there's 5 people, then you don't have to, everybody understands where to put your shoes. Everybody understands which side of the sink to spit in and when to wash the Lord's plates in. And you have certain rules and standards, and everybody knows it. There's only 5 people. But when you start preaching, all of a sudden you have 25 people or 50 people in the same house instead of 5. Then you have to put up signs. Leave your shoes here. Don't spit in this side of the sink. And it becomes impersonal. What can you do? Because we have a mission. We want the whole world to chant Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada had this vision to open up temples, to be like schools, to teach people about bhakti, to teach them about sadachar, about proper behavior and things. But it becomes a little impersonal sometimes. And as you commented, what happens is that sincere young devotee who came and really wanted to serve his guru, and then the guru said, you be a manager. All of a sudden he's got this huge thing, and there's 50 or 200 people coming, and he has to be impersonal. You cannot deal personally with 200 people. So you have to put up some signs to take your shoes off here, don't spit here, do this thing, do that thing. You have to have rules and things, and it kind of hurts the heart a little bit. My humble suggestion always is in devotee societies, not that we should close the temple down or that we should break it up, but within that big temple, let's create some small sanghas of 4 or 5 brahmacharis or 4 or 5 matajis or 4 or 5 grihas who come together once or twice a week like we're doing and hear and chant and discuss together and have a kind of microcosm inside the macrocosm, have a small group inside the bigger group, and that makes the bigger group stronger. If you ever go to Chopati, oh my God, last time I was in Chopati was for Nishinga Chaturdasi, and Radhanath Maharaj gave the lecture. It was the first time he'd been there in over 2 years because of the COVID thing. The temple was packed. The only reason I had some seat, they were treating me like some senior person or something. You couldn't move in that temple, but what they do, they have television cameras and you can stand outside and they have these big screens and you can watch things. Now that atmosphere is not not my thing personally. That's what Bonnie asked me today if I'm going to go to Vrindavan for Kartik. I generally don't, just because I don't like big crowds. It just, I can't function. It's just so many people. Maybe I go to Govardhan for Kartik. I've done that sometimes, and that's a lot sweeter. I like small, intimate sanghas. Anyway, so in such a big group, it's very, very hard to function. What can you do? So there has to be some rules, but I found in Chopati that although I didn't feel comfortable with that packed in group, at the same time there was some sweetness there. Why is there sweetness? Because in that group they have small little groups. That day there must have been maybe 3 or 4 or 5,000 people who came to the temple. It was a big crowd. But in those 5,000 people, there's 500 or 200 or whatever groups of 4 or 5 devotees who regularly get together and read and exchange with each other. And that's a natural thing. I mean, sometimes devotees also make that into a formula where you have an appointed counselor, and I'm also not real enthusiastic about that. I like things which are more natural, but there needs to be smaller groups like that. Big sanghas create impersonalism. When we see these kind of things, again, it's going to be a question of our faith. It's going to be a test of our faith. What are we going to do in that situation? Well, what is the bhakti solution? Long before Gandhi ever said it, the bhakti solution is that we should be the solution to the problems that we see. When we see some kind of problem, instead of saying, "Oh, these guys are a bunch of bastards," the manager treated me in an impersonal way. Why did he do that? Of course, he's got 500 other people that he's dealing with, and I'm expecting that he's going to pay special attention to me. Might be a little unreasonable on my side, but anyway, instead of becoming offended by that they're being impersonal, let me use the most powerful weapon that's in that's available for me, and be personal and do bhakti and hear and chant with devotees. That's the solution. And if we do that with everybody, then it's a loving solution. And we can love that manager, even though he treated us in an impersonal way, even though maybe he was rude and obnoxious. But like a child who makes mistakes. I remember one 8-year-old girl, we were at her family's house, a devotee girl. She started shouting at her mother, "I hate you, I hate you, you should die." It was horrible. She's like 8 or 9 years old. But the mother didn't think, no, okay, that's it, I'm never going to talk to you again. Go away, I kick you out of the house. She's a little girl. You just tolerate, it was a horrible thing that she said, but you just tolerate it. And so that's maturity. When we see someone who has some material desires, or someone becomes bewildered, someone behaves in the wrong way, then we just think, well, they're not yet perfect in their bhakti, and I'm not perfect in my bhakti, so let me tolerate that. But because we're coming together to hear and chant, because there's a mission. This is the only reason I tolerate ISKCON society. Otherwise, personally, I'm not a person for big temples or big sanghas and organized things and all the rules and stuff like that. It's not my thing. But I tolerate that. Not only do I tolerate it, I work with them with love and affection because of Srila Prabhupada's mission. Because I want to serve my Gurudeva, I want to serve Srila Prabhupada, I want to please them. That's why I'm here, not because for my benefit, or I'm going to leave because of my benefit. I'm so sulky, they weren't nice to me, those nasty people. It's not all about me, it's about the mission. That's my reflection on your comments, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Can I say something
Sure.
more? There is one area when you can really imagine you are part of the pastime, and it's not bad. Because Siddha-pranali, you have this information, and you imagine you are that girl or something. And that's wrong, because you will not go anywhere by imagining something about spiritual. But there is one area. You know what is that? when the imagination of you are the part of the pastimes is very useful and very helpful. That is the drama, when you play drama. And I would like to read some words which is nicely explaining that how it's working. Because the same imagination, but in this case, it's a very good thing, but not the same as imagining that I am really that person. So the original rasa resides in the associates of Krishna, whose pastimes later appear in drama, poetry, and prose. When such drama is seen or poetry heard, the Lord's associates have already psychically left this world, and thus their rasas take shelter of the audience and speakers. As devotee stage the depiction of a pastime, there is an extraordinary upsurge of rasa, characteristic of elevated stages of Krishna consciousness. Kavi Karnapura calls this temporary upsurge poetic taste, kavya rasa, to distinguish it from direct taste, bhakti rasa, neither of which should be confused with the taste of offenders per se, which is the material or at best the semblance of taste. So the field of drama, you can use your imagination. When you read good poem, you can use imagination, but it's like just for that reading, just for that drama. And then go on by purifying the heart. That's what one mind.
Yeah, this is such a beautiful discussion. I know you're a drama person. I remember seeing you play Srila Prabhupada in that drama in New Brajadam. And yet, I also, before I joined Krishna consciousness, I was in drama. I had the lead role in the school play and things. I was also doing a little bit of drama. And drama, if you study all the arts, I give a whole seminar about this, and I'm trying to think how to explain this succinctly. All the different arts, like Sangeet or music, like nritya or dance, etc., all of those come from the Ras Leela, historically speaking, in terms of Shastra. All the different ragas and the raginis, all the different melodies, all the different tals or beats, all the different types of dance, all the types of painting, all the types of poetry, all the types of cooking, which is also another type of art. All of those things come from the Ras Leela, and it's a long discussion how all those come about. And it's described in the Bhakti Ratnakara and a few other books. But at the end of all of that, what happens? Krishna leaves. And then the gopis become unmadan. They become mad in separation. What did they do? Drama. They start acting out like they're Krishna, and this one's Putana, and that's the origin of drama. And drama is a sum total of all the arts. Because within drama, you have backdrops, you have paintings on them. Within drama, you may cook something. Within drama, you have music, you have song, you have dance. All the different arts are together in drama. And drama is the king of all the arts. And Srila Prabhupada told the devotees that, and I think this was his purpose also in encouraging devotees to wear dhotis and saris, which he did encourage them, because when you're dressed like that, you identify in a certain way. We're in a very remote part of the city of Budapest. The nearest devotees are a few hours away from us. I confess I don't wear a dhoti and kurta all the time, but sometimes I do, especially if I'm going to the temple, if I'm going to some government offices because they like the devotees. I do, and whenever I wear a dhoti, we went shopping at some big store for some vegetables or something, and I'm going through the checkout, and the person says, "Sir, do you have any of your books or stickers or anything? Because our manager really likes the Hare Krishna people." Just because I'm wearing a dhoti and things, and I don't have any books, but I do have some stickers, and I gave him some Gauranga stickers and things. So people, and I identify with it in a certain way. I identify with Vrindavan. When I see someone wearing a dhoti or kurta, I think of Vrindavan. I think of the Brij Basis because I've been to Vrindavan. I don't know, it's a whole debate what Krishna was wearing, this or that. I'm not going to go there. But I do know Braj. I've gone all over Braj. And I know the Brijbasi is something. I've had prasadam in the houses of different Brijbasis at different times. And the way they dress and the way their mood and things, this is the Brijbasi dress. It reminds me of them. And that makes me so very, very happy. So that's a kind of drama. That we dress in a certain way, we behave in a certain way, which is not really us. Prabhupada, I heard, I've not found this quote, but it makes sense. I've heard that Srila Prabhupada once told the devotees, he said, you're not Vaishnavas, but you're dressing like Vaishnavas, you're pretending to be Vaishnavas, and just like a person in a drama, what is the benefit of drama? You know very well, Gaunitai Prabhu, when you do drama, the benefit of the drama is if you're really meditating on Srila Prabhupada. Now you can do the drama and just try to look like Srila Prabhupada. Good luck. Who can look physically like Srila Prabhupada? It's not going to work. But when you try to understand what was Srila Prabhupada's feelings when he got on the Jaladuta, when he arrived in America, and what was his feelings? And if you can experience some of those feelings and then share them with others, that's drama. And that's a very important devotional activity. Thank you for sharing all that.
You know, one time I played Prabhupada, and when we made this practice, it was the most difficult not to try to imitate Prabhupada's any movements.
Yeah.
It was so important. My teacher was always just telling me, no, this looks like Prabhupada, it's not Prabhupada. You have to get it from inside, in your way. The mission, meditate on the mission. And that's somehow we played it, and devotee was happy. So,
yeah. Actually, I'll tell you, I don't want to make you proud, but I'll tell you honestly, I've seen a lot of dramas where devotees played Prabhupada, and they imitated him, and some of them had the head movement down, or the walk, or even his accent or something, and it just caused pain in my heart. And I felt like turning away. I didn't even want to watch the drama. It really just kind of hurt my heart. But when I watched you doing it, actually, I cried. It really brought something to my heart, because we need to, and it sounds like your director was a good director. We have to look deep in the heart. So thank you, Gaunitai.
thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. I think, Dorothy, did you have something more? Or Orsi? Either one of you?
Thank you so much.
Dorothy?
Rupanuga Prabhu, I saw his son.
Oh, Rupanuga Prabhu also? Why don't we hear from him first?
Hare Krishna,
So,
bro. Can you?
thank you for coming, Rupanuga. I just want to say one thing real quick. Everybody should be nice to Rupanuga, okay? Don't be mean to him. He's a really gentle, sweet devotee. Look at that smile. If you're mean or bad to him, I'll be very angry.
So I never got that kind of welcome anyway. I felt like, yeah. Thank you very much, bro. First of all, like, it's an honor to be here, and the kind of discussion which are happening, and I'm hearing the beginning lecture form of this series, Prema-bhakti-candrika. So I've covered like 10 lectures over there. So you can understand, like, I'm watching a movie directly and came to the like 63rd or 65th lecture, and I'm in the beginning of in my recording hearing session. So I know few characters, like the today in the chat we were discussing. Lila Purushottam Prabhu was there, Gaurnitai Prabhu is there, and yes, you yourself is there. So it's a dream. Means when I was hearing this conversation, I was feeling like, I'm looking for you people. Where are you? You are existing. I'm searching for you. So I found, yes, there is a sangha within our movement who broadly and openly discuss these kind of topics, and they put really good thoughts actually behind it and come up with a nice discussion, proper understanding, and nice conclusion. So that's my, means, just a short gratitude, I would say, Prabhuji. And I don't know, it's just a Krishna's arrangement, how these things are happening in my life, because actually I'm in Vrindavan, so in VIH I told you. So how I came here, this itself is a story, and how I got the teachers after teachers and good sangha after sangha. So I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful to you, Okay, finally someone spoke about those topics. Someone is addressing those issues now. Otherwise, come on, these things can't go like this. And this is just going in my head since so many years. And I thought that maybe I'm wrong. I think I should keep myself shut down. No, I should become robot. No. So now there is a proper way to understand also. So I found like, yeah. And I was discussing this means how I came to you also again. I was a manager of Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. So for 1 or 2 years, I was serving him. So I appreciate your intellectual strong ability and the Shastric uh, approach. At the same time, the mood you always carry. So that attracts me always to your discussions. And I always admire Gorgon Swami Maharaj. When I heard him during my ashram, when I was in ashram, wow, it was a blast in my, you can say, when I heard Gorgon Swami Maharaj it was like, and I got someone who is speaking so strongly and so from the heart. It's not just the way you are speaking like today. It's not a lip service. It should be from heart, and that was means when I heard Maharaj it was something nectar which I was really looking for. And later on, when I heard you physically in Holy Name retreat, I believe Holy Name or Govardhan retreat, and then few other times, then I found like yes, maybe yes, I need to hear from Prabhu again and again. So that's why even without mentioning to you, I start hearing your lectures from so many days. And previously also I read your book When Good Fortune Arises, I think 6 7 years back. And that was, I felt like, yes bro, I can't repay, but I can just express my gratitude, like yeah, really grateful to you, Prabhuji. Means you don't know what you have done to me. You don't know. And just thank you, really grateful to you, and really appreciate this Sangha. And then the conversation, the dialogues which we are exchanging, the depth of the topics which we have right now. Wow, it's the requirement of the Jiva now. It's the requirement, at least for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Purnima.
Thanks.
Please, if you see him, please offer my obeisances. A very saintly Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. He's a really wonderful, but I miss his association. I love talking with him. He's such a very thoughtful person. It's really, really important to be able to ask questions. I was about maybe 10 years old or something. I was forced to go to Christian church in America. And I was becoming a little bit thoughtful, perhaps. And I remember the pastor that they were speaking. Once I had a question. I asked the pastor, the person, I said, how is it? I'm just this little child, I'm 8 or 10 years old, and I asked him, how is it that God can damn someone to hell for eternity? You know, I wouldn't do that to my friends. And God's a lot more merciful than I am. And I think it's a pretty relevant question. It's a pretty obvious question. And what was his response? He looked at me and was kind of blank for a moment. He clearly didn't know what to say. And then finally he said, don't ask that question. And when he said that, it really broke my heart. I saw this is bogus. I remember giving a lecture in Moscow once, and a young girl in the audience asked some question about Gurukuli children being molested in ISKCON or something. It was a bit of a confrontational question. And I spoke to her in a very honest, open way. And afterwards, she came up to me, and it turns out she's a PhD candidate who's working for the United Nations. Her mother's an initiated devotee. She's been around bhakti practically her whole life, but she'd lost faith in the devotees because they wouldn't address, there's certain questions which were illegal. Like my question as a little boy to that pastor. And she was so happy that someone could be honest and straightforward with her and address her question. So I have that feeling that there shouldn't be any question which is illegal. Questions which are asked in a humble, respectful way, not in a challenging, confrontational kind of way. But if they're asking it in a right mood, there should be no questions which are illegal. Anyway, thank you, Rupanuga Prabhu. You're there in the right place with the right devotees, the VIHE. I don't know, hopefully, somebody just asked me a question here. Was it Siddha Prabhu? Since I mentioned India and Kartik, any update on my visa? Yeah, I'll give everybody a little update right now. What I did yesterday was an amazing cultural experience for me. I went to the U.S. Embassy a week before, actually about 5 or 6 days before I went to apply for a new passport. And I went to get my passport yesterday. It took me about 60 seconds to collect it. Those guys are like, that's why Prabhupada liked Americans. I think that they're so super organized. It was astonishing to me. India, forget it. If you try to do anything with the government bureaucrats. But in 60 seconds, I have my passport in my hand. So now I've got a passport which is valid until 2034, because my other passport was going to expire in like 8 months, and because of that, I couldn't. We were blacklisted for a while. We heard verbally that they were going to allow us to apply for a visa again. Now we're not sure if that's because verbally previously last year they told us also that we could apply, and we did, and we didn't. They refused us. So I'm not 100% sure, but from the tone of things and from coming from the embassy as it was, the Indian embassy in Budapest, I think it's a good chance. But I couldn't apply for that for a long-term visa because my passport was going to expire in 8 or 9 months. So now I have a new passport. But the problem now is, while I was waiting for that passport, and I had to renew my Hungarian residence permit, and to do that, I can't leave Hungary for like 90 days or some crazy thing, 60 days or something. So we're stuck here for some time, and then we have plans to go to Czech and get association with Lila Purushottam Prabhu and Harichandra Prabhu and some other devotees, we're hoping. But so our thought right now is to stay here until after Radhastami, when we hope to see Leela Jai Gora, who dropped off our talk, but he's here. He was here earlier, and he's supposed to be coming to Hungary. But we're going to stay here in Hungary until after Radhastami. And around probably before Radhastami, we'll apply for our Indian visa and see what happens. Yeah, Krishna Kun's pointing out we're going to need to know beforehand so we can get tickets and stuff. All right, so there's a few other comments. We still hope to continue with Gopi Gate. Yeah, I would love to have more discussions with Amarendra Prabhu and Chaitanya Charan Prabhu and Gopi Gate. I love the two of them. But the problem is all three of us are always traveling. And, sometimes Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, he's in Australia, New Zealand, and Amarendra's in America, and I'm in Europe. And to try to coordinate the time zones, and all three are really busy. It's just like all three of us really.
I also thought about it just yesterday. We should do it.
Yeah, Krishna Kun's been pushing me for a long time, and you have to listen to your wife. If you're a married person, that's very important. Have to listen to your wife. That's why it's good to be a brahmachari, Rupanuga. We just do that, and then you only have to listen to the temple president. But if you're a married man, you have to listen to your wife. Lila Purushottam Prabhu knows. So, and then there's another comment from Bonnie. Interesting comment. She says, and think about her comment. I was in Harikatha last night with a Gaudiya Vaishnava Maharaj from Orissa, and he said that Lord Ganesh is actually Krishna. I've never heard this before. Any comments from you on this? So before everybody jumps on her and says, that's wrong, that's Mayavad philosophy, and this and that, just wait a minute. I'm quite sure that he was speaking about Snan Yatra. And because that's coming right up. And at the time of Snan Yatra, that's Lord Jagannath, Krishna's public bath. And after the bathing ceremony is finished, then they have a special dress for Jagannath called the Hati Vesh. And Jagannath dresses up like Ganesh. And there's a whole story to show that Ganesh is his expansion and his devotee, and that Krishna is non-different from his devotees. Sadhavo hridayam mayam sadhanam hridayam tvaham, Krishna tells Durvasa Muni, I'm in the heart of my devotees in my heart. They're non-different in that sense. but not that it's a Hangapasanam that we're all God, or that the Devatas like Ganesh and Shiva and Brahma and others are also directly the Lord. Brahma and Shiva are guna avatars, and Ganesh is a Shaktivesh personality. He's empowered by the Lord, but we don't generally see him as directly. But in Jagannath Puri, on Snan Yatra Day, Jagannath dresses up like Ganesh. So I hope that helps, Bonnie. Answers your question. So be nice to her. Okay, anybody else with anything? Thank you, Rupanuga Prabhu. It's really nice to have your Sangha here. I hope that we can get to have you more often here. Dorothy, again, Hare Krishna. And Krishna Kun has something.
Hare Krishna.
I'm
Yes,
going
Krishna.
to go ahead.
I thought it's Krishna Kund Mataji.
You go ahead. She's a lot more wise than I am. She can make the last comments and finish. Oh, I'm good. She's going to be upset with me. Oh, no. Okay, go ahead, Dorothy.
I hope she's not upset with me now. Okay. So I was very inspired by the quote from Harinama Chintamani, Amita Adama Tumi Adama Tarana. So also this reminded me of Srila Prabhupada. He repeatedly said also in his books that the serving propensity is one's spiritual identity in a way. So this reminded me of Dasyaras. So that Dasyaras is the basis of the other rasas, and at least that's my perception. So that Madhurya ras is not the basis, but the crest jewel of the other rasas, and contains all the other rasas as well. So it seems like when we try to speculate about our spiritual identity, or the spiritual identity of Srila Prabhupada or our Gurudev, then we are trying to we are manifesting some enjoying propensity. Like we're trying to enjoy without we're trying to jump over Dasyaras to the other rasas, kind of. Like we're not trying to serve in this way, but we're trying to enjoy this kind of knowing what my Gurudev is, but it's not in the right mood. I just had this thought and this reflection.
Nice. You know what?
I hope it's correct.
This is when we project something. This is a problem in most marriages, a lot of marriages. This is a problem with arguments between devotees, even when we project something on someone else, that you should be like this. Happens a lot with Hare Krishna men, especially 20 years ago, that they had this Vedic idea that women should shut up and always cover their head and do this and this and this and just wash dishes and just be the slave to the husband. And if they're not like that, if they dare to have a brain, that's wrong or something. When we try to speculate about someone else's nature, it's just wrong. But the way to get to know everybody, the way to learn to serve Gopinath, everybody's serving. Some are washing the dishes, some are cleaning the floors, some are cutting vegetables, some are cooking, some are pujaris. There's so many different services. And it's through that service, and I want to speak more about that in our next session, through that service, especially to Guru, to Krishna through Guru, that we melt the heart of the Vaishnavas, we melt the heart of Krishna, and then they reveal themselves to us in the same way that we can also get to know someone else. Servitorship is a basis of all rasas, as you pointed out, and it's also the basis of all relationships. You know, my mother trained me to open the door for a lady and be respectful and things. And that's a type of service. When we do that in a relationship, it touches the other person's heart, and then they feel comfortable to reveal something more intimate about themselves to us. So that servitorship is a basis of all relationships. But if we're not doing that, and instead demoniacally, we're demanding service for ourselves and just thinking of my side of the relationship, then it becomes abusive. and it becomes violent, it becomes wrong. And we've seen that in our spiritual society even. So yeah, I really like your comment very much. Dasha ras is a basis of all rasas, even in the Durja ras. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. I think you have touched our hearts all this time, and we are very I feel very fortunate to be in the Sangha and also to associate with the other devotees who are giving up so much quality comments and reflections. Thank you so much to
I
everyone.
have to say something, Dorothea, that it's not humility, it's just honesty. I'm a very nasty, fallen person, really. But I have one hope in my life, that I can try to please my Guru Maharaj. But I'm going to please him if I repeat Shastra, and I'm going to please him if I repeat what he said. And if I have the understanding it doesn't belong to me, then by that repeating, it's going to purify me. It'll purify my heart. So that's why I'm doing this, but I'm not a big person or anything like that. I just want to be here to serve all these wonderful devotees in the Sangha, including yourself. Thank you. Okay, anybody here in the room want to make any comments?
I don't know, there's a crowd here. Let's see.
You want to come sit right here? Just so you're close enough so the mic can pick you up. Or even better yet.
You spoke something. Don't.
I'm not turning the camera, but I'm give you this thing. Just talking a bit right here.
I just want to make a small comment. Not such a big deal. Okay. You spoke some about rules earlier. And I heard a wonderful, like we had a Sangha earlier today, and we had some wonderful discussion specifically on the basis of the last song of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Sharanagati in the protection section, where basically Bhaktivinoda Thakur is praying, and it's clear that it's not Krishna, but it's Krishna's eternal associate, Sakhi Manjari, who is making all the arrangements for her protection in the spiritual realm. And very similar topics came up about spiritual identity, etc. And Mother Srimati made a few comments about rules and their importance, and I thought that I would like to repeat them.
Yeah, please do.
He said that if you look at rules as things which you are like grudgingly follow because you are classified as a Vaidhi Bhakta, and then it's not going to take you anywhere. We know, I mean, she didn't say that, but we know from Bhagavad Gita that if something is done grudgingly, then what is it? It's in a mode of passion. I think it's not in a passion. So you will not get the same result. But if you follow the rules, because it will shape your subtle body to think and feel like a devotee. That's why we follow rules, to shape our subtle body to think like a devotee, to feel like a devotee. Then those rules mean that we are taking on the abhiman, the behavior, the attitude of an eternal associate of Krishna in Vrindavan. Because Prabhupada, the way he writes, and that's where I'm coming to. Yeah. And just like Gauranitai Prabhu, when you were talking about drama, then you follow the rules because you actually have a script. And in most dramas, you follow the script. So the rules are, and this was my thought, that the rules are only the script of the drama. So you go through that and you stick to that. But by sticking to that, your heart becomes shaped into a Brijbasi's heart. And this is just such a wonderful gift before we get to, as Prabhupada said, real bhakti, raganuga bhakti. We just stick to the rules because it shapes our heart, and that's a completely different attitude to following rules. And then, of course, my favorite, that to follow rules, to follow Vidhi, is to be under the shelter of Srimati Radharani, because all bhakti is under her shelter. Mahatmanastu Mampartam Daivim Prakritim Ashritaha. It's her shelter, that Ashrita, that Daivi Prakriti Ashrita. the great souls are under the protection of the divine nature, and that means under Srimati Radharani's shelter. So whenever we follow those rules, if our meditation is, I'm following these rules because this means that I'm under Radharani's shelter. It's a completely different consciousness, and we'll just fly. Anyway, this is what I wanted to share.
You know, everybody complains about rules. I also was complaining about rules. Why do we complain about rules? Rules are not wrong, as you're nicely pointing out. Rules are actually part of love. But when someone gives us a rule and we say, why? And they say, because I said so, that's why. Because I'm in charge, you have to. Then that hurts your heart. Unless you have love for that person, if you have love for them, then you can follow them. But if they just tell you, you know, that you have to do it because I told you to do it, then you feel like, oh, I'm being abused. I'm being forced into something. And those kind of rules we don't appreciate. But the rules that our Gurudev gives us, rules that some Vaishnava gives us that has love for us, those are Vaidhi Bhakti. And those give us great happiness in the heart. Great comment, Krishna Kun. Mother Srimati is just such an amazing personality. Plug it from there. Okay. So I want to thank everybody very much. Unless anybody has anything that's burning in their heart they want to share, we'll go ahead and stop here. And I just want to thank everybody so much. Bonnie, it's so nice that you've been here. We got Orsi's coming now, and Dorothea, and wow, Rupa Nuga Prabhu is really wonderful devotees. So I please try to come as much as you can, because it creates a sangha. That's our purpose, not just for information, but we want to create a sangha together, because that'll give us life. Otherwise, we are just following rules just for the sake of rules. But when there's love and there's affection amongst the devotees, then it gives us so much inspiration. Okay. Thank you very much. Leela Purushottam Prabhu, are you still there?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Do you want to,
Yes, I'm here.
any final comments from you? You always have something good to say.
No, I want to thank all the devotees for inspiring you to share so much with us and reaching on all levels. Actually, one part of the nectar is hearing your words, and another part of the nectar is to be enriched by the thought process of the devotees and seeing different angles which wouldn't be available to us personally, because we always have the narrow-mindedness of our conditioning. So that's the benefit, as you mentioned always, that creates sangha. Yeah, and then we can be even like flow. Then we can be, how to say, like emotionally involved in that sangha with the feelings of friendship and gratitude and then like that.
I have
so
to say, the
beneficial.
nectar is in one other place also. The nectar is in Leela Purushottam Prabhu's house when they cook prasadam. They serve out prasadam. That's really nectar. And we don't get to have that here. So we always like to go and visit Leela Purushottam. But Gaurani Thai Prabhu knows very well what I'm saying, because he was there. He got to experience that. And we're going to have we're going to be taking part, if all goes well with our visa stuff, and looks like it will. We'll be in Czech for the Czech summer camp, right? That's what you call it?
Yeah, Bhakti Sangha summer camp, we want to call it.
Okay, Bhakti Sangha summer camp. So, you know, if Rupa Nuga Prabhu, you want to fly from India for that, then you can take prasadam with Leela Purushottam Prabhu. If anybody else wants to go, some of you are in Europe already. It's not so hard for you.
Oh, Krishna, actually,
well,
I mean, we don't know if we can go.
Yeah, Krishna Kun's pointing out we're not 100% sure that we're going to be able to go, but I think we're going to be able to. I don't think it's a problem. Just from what
I wrote yesterday to Krishna Kun's Mataji that I will pray like mad. I promise you, I will not pray. I will not pray to keep you in Europe against your wish and will and heart desire. But in this regard, I will pray like mad.
Then after that, for Radhastami, we don't have many plans yet. We're going to be supposed to be going to Ukraine with Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj. If things work out, that's another complicated thing. And then for the Czech camp, and then for next thing on our schedule will be Janmashtami, which we're not real sure where that's going to be yet. But Radhastami will probably be in New Brajadam. And I think, Leela, you're going to come for that, right? And Jaguar is going to be.
Definitely have that plan. Definitely have that plan. Gaurnitai Prabhu is going to be there. Jaguar is going to be there. Then it's a must.
Anybody
and
wants
I don't
to
mind anyway. It's like.
Orsi will be there also. Orsi, you'll be
I
there.
have a ticket.
I would like to go. How can I go there? How is it possible?
Well, you get in your car and you drive
Yes.
south.
But if she's
You just put in the navigation Somogivamos. And
Okay, but how we can apply? Because
For the-
I checked the homepage and it was only in Czech, so there was no English version. I have no other information.
Well, you'd have to have an inside person. You have to find someone who's helping to organize the program. And I know just the person. His name is Leela Das. So he's a friend. You get in with him, and maybe he'll even arrange you to get nice prasadam or something like that.
I'll give you
In
his
this
number.
in this case, we have to arrange the traveling as well.
Otherwise, you can come down at least for the day for Radhastami Festival in New Brajadam also, and we can see you
I
again.
will go definitely.
Someone
I
else
will
who
be
wants
there.
to go to either of those programs, and maybe especially the Radhastami, actually, it's not so easy. If you're going down for a day, it's easy, but if you're going down, if you want to stay the night and get prasadam and things, you got to register, and it's a whole thing, and you better do it right away because they have their rules and system. Gaurnitai Prabhu knows Gaurnitai, he just hangs out with the cows. So he can go sleep with the cows and it's no problem. They got a place for him, right? But for the rest of it, we have to do something. Anyway, thank you all so much. I really appreciate your Sangha. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha nandakoti vaishnava brinda ki jai Srila Prabhupada ki jai Go Prema-nandi Hari Hari Bol. So Rupa Nuga Bhakti Prabhu next week, every week, same time, same place, same link. Save the link. You're part of our WhatsApp group now. I post a little notice when it's going in. Once in a while, we're not able to do it for some reason, but otherwise every week we do.
Yeah. Actually,
next-
today, today it was on the poster, it was saying 8:30 p.m. IST. So I joined at 8:30, but the class was already going on. So my YouTube said, so was it 7:30?
It's because of
Yes,
the
7:30 in Indian time.
there was a time change because of the sun. In Europe, there is 1 hour difference.
Right.
So, and we never corrected that general notice. It's
Okay.
3.5 hours difference now, not 4.5 hours.
Yeah,
So that's
sorry
our
about that.
mistake.
Thank you.